America's decline is over. I will declare a national emergency, and I will send troops to the southern border to repel the disastrous invasion of our country.
Border crossings this month are on track to be at the lowest in at least 25 years.
The 1,500 troops sent to the border begin their new mission.
The first groups of Venezuelan migrants deported from the U.S.
This week, I will reinstate any service members who were unjustly expelled from our military for objecting to the COVID vaccine mandate with full back pay.
President Donald Trump delivering on yet another campaign promise.
We will begin the revolution of common sense.
The Children's Hospital Los Angeles is pausing all transgender hormonal therapy for patients under the age of 19.
We will defend the proud tradition of female athletes. From now on, women's sports will be only for women.
The NCAA announcing it will comply with the order across all sports, setting what they call a new clear national standard.
We will bring prices down, fill our strategic reserves up again right to the top, and export American energy all over the world. With my actions today, we will end the Green New Deal and we will revoke the electric vehicle mandate.
President Trump's immediate actions on energy, his declaration of a national energy emergency, restart liquefied natural gas terminal approvals, boost Alaska's energy production, revoke Biden's ban on oil and gas drilling in most U.S. coastal waters, and Paris Climate Agreement withdrawal.
Congratulations. Good job. Good job. Hi. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome, Mr. President. Good to see you. It's a nice friendly group. Lovely. Well, we're in a very good mood. We just had the highest poll numbers I've ever had. Ever. And actually a record for a Republican. Now, I don't know about, have they checked the Democrats too? But we have a record so far for a Republican. Now it's 4 weeks. We have a lot of weeks to go. We want to finish that way, right? But I just want to thank everybody because you've been really amazing. The job you've done has been incredible in terms of this 4-week period. It's been a very somewhat historic 4 weeks, and we have a couple of things in the works. We're negotiating with Russia, Ukraine, trying to get that horrible situation over with. It's terrible. It's just so terrible. I see pictures that you fortunately don't get to see. You don't want to see them. And that is a killing field. You have young soldiers being killed, thousands a week, and we got to get it over with. It's bad for Russia, and it's bad for Ukraine, and it's bad for us on a humanitarian basis. I've had very good talks with Putin, and I've had not such good talks with Ukraine. They don't have any cards, but they play it tough. but we're not going to let this continue. This war is terrible. It would have never happened if I were president, but it did happen, so I got stuck with it, and the whole world is stuck with it. And right now you have a country that has its cities, they look like demolition sites. Those beautiful towers, those 1,000-year-old golden domes that were so beautiful, the most beautiful in the world, they say, they're all in smithereens. Millions of people are killed, I think far more people than anyone understands. And we have people that better get to the table and get it ended. Should have never happened. It would have never happened. But I'm delighted to welcome America's governors to the White House. You're amazing people. Even the Democrats are amazing people, some of you. And we've worked together. Actually, we work very well together. I can't think of anybody. There's one or two, yeah, that it doesn't work out so well. But that's sort of normal. But I do want to welcome you, and I want to let you know that anything I can do, I'm here. I'm here for you. And we can do a lot. I do want to say that I left a great place, North Carolina, and we're really working hard there since I've been in. For 4 weeks, we've done more than they've did in all of the period of time. And FEMA was a disaster. FEMA wasn't there. They didn't do the job. And it was a terrible, terrible situation. I've never seen anything like it. And then they actually, when they did get there, a very small group, they chose anybody with an American flag or the name Trump on the front of the house. They would sort of skip that house very nicely. And it was just a disaster. And we've done it the other way. And we're working with a very nice person that we've had good relationships, the newly elected Democrat governor, who's here, I assume, is he? Okay, thank you very much. We're working well together, very well together. And we're not using FEMA so much, but it doesn't matter as long as we get the job done. But the people are becoming very happy. So I want to thank you very much. Great job. But we are, and I'm of the opinion, I understand FEMA very well. We had a good situation with FEMA, but it was a very expensive thing to do. And I really believe when there's a natural disaster, a hurricane, a tornado, or whatever it may be, you're very capable people. It's called you fix it. You take care of it yourselves. You don't have to call some faraway state and have people planed in from areas that they have no idea. They come in from Alaska to help you in Florida. They say, boy, this is hot here. This is, by the time they figure it out, everything would have been fixed. It's not a good situation. It's very expensive. You spend at least twice as much. They don't negotiate. They go out and hire local contractors, and they have no idea who they are. And I'd rather have my governor from South Carolina, Henry. I'd rather have Ron. I'd rather have from Florida. I'd rather have, I could name just about everybody in this room. I'd rather have you do it. You'll save a lot of money. And we'll send the bills. We'll pay, I think, far less. We have to have, you have a little bit of skin in the game. Otherwise, those bills will be much higher than they're supposed to be, especially with a couple of you in this room who I know will get bills that you wouldn't believe, record setters. But so I think 75, 25 with the government, the federal government paying 75. And we'll go right through to probably either go through Commerce, maybe go through Marco, because Marco's very good with money. I don't think I'm going to give him to the environmental gentleman, Lee Zeldin, here, because Lee's going to say, what's this all about, huh? They gave me this, too. You have found some big stuff, by the way, some big fraud. You have, as he said, this one's not even explainable. We're talking about billions of dollars, so great job, Lee. Really, it's sad, but it's a great job you've done in a very short period of time. But I think Marco or Scott or Howard, and if wherever Howard may be, we want to congratulate him. It was a great session. He got no Democrat votes. I thought he's been a Democrat all his life, and he got no Democrat votes. They all called him to apologize. And, honestly, that shouldn't be. But he got approved yesterday. But today I'm delighted to welcome America's governors to the White House. And I've known many of you for a long, long time. And this week we're forging even stronger bonds of cooperation to better serve the American people. I also want to thank the members of my cabinet who have joined us for this meeting, and they really have gone right off the bat. And I also want to thank Senator Thune, because I'm hearing we set a record on approvals, and I was screaming. I thought it was going so slowly. I think we have a record. So I apologize to anybody I screamed at. But no, it was announced this morning. I think we had a record for the number of positions, so that's great, and they're great people. So I'll begin by introducing Secretary of State Marco Rubio. He scares me because he got 99 votes. So that's either unbelievably good because he's an incredible diplomat and therefore he's Secretary of State and you couldn't have picked it, or I'm a little nervous about you, Marco. And the only vote he didn't get was our Vice President, who couldn't vote because he had just left. So you got 100%. But it really says something. I think it says working together. It's an amazing tribute, I think. I'll let you know about it. I'll let you know about it in about 2 years, everybody. Marco's been great, and he's been in some big meetings with people at the highest level of states that we would say, states meaning other countries that we would have said wouldn't have dealt so well, but they're dealing very well. You have a great group of people with Steve Witkoff and Michael Waltz, and we're making amazing progress. I mean, we've made more progress on that situation, which is Ukraine, than they have in 3 years. Again, it's so sad that it began, but we're also working very hard in the Middle East. Another one that wouldn't have happened, we would never have had, that you wouldn't have had October 7th. They had no money. Iran was broke. We had sanctions up on Iran that nobody's ever seen before. They were literally broke, and they were not giving any money to Hezbollah, to Hamas. And how about Hamas yesterday with the babies? How about that? You know, we're going to take that. We're going to continue to take that. I don't think so. But I want to just thank you, Marco, for doing a great job, and Scott, you also. Scott went all the way to Ukraine. I said, don't do it. That's why they have telephones. But look, it's always better to meet in person. But I just didn't feel that it was good, and it was dangerous. You saw things on that train ride that you didn't like, I understand. You know, it's a pretty dangerous ride, a long ride. How long was that? 10 hours. 10-hour ride? That's after you get there. And a very dangerous journey, but he wanted to do it. He's a patriot. He wanted to do it. It's better to do it than it is with a telephone. Always better. I always say it's much better to meet in person, but that was dangerous. I like him. Therefore, I didn't want him to do it. If I didn't like him, I would have suggested he do it. In fact, I'd say, go back today and let's give it another shot. But I hear that they're going to agree pretty much with what. But that's not the big thing. The big thing is getting it done, and we'll get it done. Also, somebody who's been so popular right from the beginning. Very, very little opposition. But she's fantastic. She was the Attorney General of Florida for 8 years, highly respected, and just an amazing person, amazing leader and woman, Pam Bondi. Good, Pam. How's it going? Good? You got enough work? You got a lot of work over there, I'll tell you, man. She's going to be unbelievable. I don't even think about it. Interior Secretary Doug Burgum, and Doug, I don't know if Doug's here. He was last night. Oh, good. You just disappear right into the woodwork, huh? Doug is a man who made a lot of money, actually, but in technology, sold to Microsoft for a lot, and decided he wanted to do a Trump thing, and he did, and he won easily. And he became a great governor of North Dakota, and really good. And he was all of a sudden thrown into the oil business, right? And he took that to a level that nobody ever thought possible. The job you've done there has been amazing. And I watched he ran. Then I said, I like that guy. He was one of the few that didn't hit me. He was after my position, but he never said anything bad about me. I said, okay, that's one checklist that we have good. You know, it's one of the ones. But he was an amazing governor, and he really became an expert on energy. And when I was with him, I realized I wanted him someplace. I didn't know exactly where, but I thought it would be the Department of Energy. I kept talking because the state has done so well. And I said, look, I want you to just hold it. And I want to put you there. He said, sir, I have somebody much better than me on energy. Who? Chris Wright. I said, who the hell is Chris Wright? He said, is Chris here? I don't even know. Is Chris here? Hello, Chris. Boy, am I giving him some buildups. I did the same thing last night. But he's the top guy in the whole, they say, on the planet for energy, in all forms of energy. Even clean, beautiful coal that we're going to be using like Germany does now. They're opening up a plant a week. And they're opening up in China more than, somebody told me, 2 plants a week, but we're supposed to use the wind, which doesn't work. Doesn't work from a practical standpoint. But I just want to welcome you because you had the greatest man. When he said, you're probably the only man, because I know Doug, he's got a big ego. And you're the only man I've actually heard him say something. He said, he's so much better than me on energy, he's better than anybody. And so we made a move, and you gave up a tremendous position to do this. And we want to thank you, but we have to get going because when we bring the energy costs down, we have more energy than anybody in the world. We just didn't use it. Can you imagine? Biden set us up in Venezuela instead of taking ours, so that we go to Venezuela where they'd have very heavy stuff, and we have the best stuff in the world. We have more liquid gold, and it's really great liquid gold too. We have more under our feet than anybody else. But we went to Venezuela to buy oil instead of taking it from our own land and, drilling a little hole in the ground. About, how big is that hole? About a foot? About a foot, yeah. We drill a little tiny hole, and we could have taken it instead of all of the problems. And then we made Venezuela strong again. They've given them a lot of money. They never thought they were going to have so much money, and all the people are leaving. So you're going to have one guy sitting there with a lot of oil under his feet. That's not a good situation, but we're having talks about that whole mess. What a mess it was. That was another one that was done. He was ready to quit. He was going to be out. Marco, you know that better than anybody. Marco's been very staunch against what took place there. And we were going to have that in any form we wanted it. But Biden made them strong. It was the worst administration in history, and I say that with a lot of Democrats, but I think you believe it too. You can't say it, but you believe it. But I just want to thank you, and if you get those prices down, that's what caused inflation, the energy. I mean, the spending, but I think even more so the energy. The energy went up. They stopped the oil leases. They stopped a lot of things that we were doing, and then they went back to what we were doing as much as they could because the prices were going through the roof. Remember that initial surge? It was brutal. And they went back. They let any rig. They let any rig that we had up just drill. And they ended up doing similar numbers, but we wouldn't have been at those numbers. We would have been double or triple those numbers. Those were from years ago. But energy caused our problem. But I just want to thank you for recommending him. And what we've done is he's the head of Department of Energy. He's Department of the Interior. And it's really screwy because the Department of the Interior has all the energy other than some nuclear energy that you're in charge of. But he has all the energy, has all the land, all the great places, best. We have more than any other country in the world. And he's in charge of it. The problem is he can't drill. And he drills, but he has no land. So what do? We said, I have an idea. Let's merge them. So we merged them intellectually. I don't know if we did it legally, but we did it intellectually. So now he gives up the land and he gives up the drillers, and you're going crazy, right? You're going wild, and you'll do it beautifully, environmentally well, Lee. We'll make sure. But we have a lot of things, but we had a merge. I always wondered, why doesn't the Energy Department do more? And they did do more because they don't have any energy. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. We'll probably have to make maybe even a change in that, somehow merge them or do something, because it's pretty tremendous what you're going to be able to do. Agricultural Secretary Brooke Rollins, who's so fantastic, and she's been at the head of so many different things and loyal from the beginning. She even opened up when we had a rather shocking defeat. She opened up we call it an institute. I've never seen anybody raise money like her. She raised hundreds of millions of dollars on this fabulous thing. But I said, look, we want to win another race because I think it's really important to win twice. And I won 3 times, if you think about it. So but it's only the Republicans smile when I say it happens to be true. But But Brooke has been amazing, and it was really tough because this last election, I go to a person and say, "Sir, I just gave you $10 million. Oh, where did you give it to?" I gave it to Brooke. You gave it to Brooke. She's spending it on policy. We don't have to worry about policy. We have to worry about getting elected, right? But Brooke is fantastic, and she's done such a good job, and she's make America great again, at top of the line, right? And she's going to, and what I didn't know, and as soon as I found out, I said, that's that. She studied, that's what she studied, agriculture. She knows everything about it, and she's going to be a fantastic secretary, and you'll do something with the eggs, because I'm hearing so much about eggs. You'll figure it out. You got to figure something out fast. But and we inherited all of the problems. You know, at some point, a few months down the road, we won't be able to say it's so much us. But the big things, really, we can blame other people for, to allow criminals into our country at levels that nobody's ever seen before, to allow people from jails to have countries from all over the world be allowed to empty jails into an open border. They emptied jails and prisons, mental institutions, insane asylum, gang members, drug lords, drug people, people on drugs, people that are very sick. They allowed them to come into our country totally unchecked, unvetted. And right now we have a great gentleman, Tom Homan, who's doing an unbelievable job, and Kristi Noem. They're doing a great job, but it's something we should have never had to be done. And you see the levels of crime that these are serious. They make our criminals look nice, I'll tell you. That's the only thing we get out of it. Our criminals are very nice people by comparison. These are seriously tough people. The various gangs, whether it's MS-13 or the Venezuelan gangs, they're as tough as nobody's ever seen toughness like this. Secretary of Health and Human Services, nobody knows this particular gentleman. He sailed right through. I thought he'd get a lot of, I said, well, he's going to get a lot of Democrat votes, Ron. I said, he's going to be an easy one, right? I told Ron DeSantis, I said, this one's going to be so easy. He's going to get all those Democrat votes. I don't know. You thank goodness for the Republicans, right? Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And where is Bobby? Where is Bobby? So congratulations. Was that as easy as you thought? Just quit. Well, in the end, they all voted for him. He did pretty well. You got through. But, you know, we have one stat that I quote, the autism stat. And you hear different numbers, but it's thousands. They say between 10 and 20,000. So if you go back 15 years ago, we had like nobody. It was 1 in 20,000. Now we have 1 in 34. Is that right? 34. So 34 or 36 kids have autism. And if you go back, I guess 18 years, that whenever that was done, it was 1 in 20,000. So we got from 20,000 to 34, 36. That's unbelievable. So there's something wrong. There's something wrong. We've done something wrong. There's something, you're going to figure it out. Maybe it's a spray that we spray all over the place that nobody else does. Other countries don't. The Pennsylvania Dutch, they don't do anything, and they're amazingly healthy. And he understands. He's working with Dr. Oz, who's a really smart guy. I know him very well. And those two guys are going to figure it out. They're also going to figure out why in the United States we pay $1,300 for a drug, one that we were talking about, and in London they pay, literally they pay $200, even less. $88, I heard in one case yesterday. They pay $88, we pay $1,300 for the exact same drug from the exact same factory, from the same plant where it's made. We've got to figure that out. So I hope you focus really a lot on the cost too, because Americans are being screwed, and it's no good. They're not going to put up with it. Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, another one I know very well. He's going to be fantastic, Scott Turner. So, Scott, congratulations. Man, oh, man, you are something. He got up and we had a great meeting yesterday, right? He got up and spoke. He's a good speaker, that one. And everybody loves you. Everybody knows you. Great guy. You're going to do fantastically. Well, you got a good recommendation from Ben Carson. Once Ben Carson recommended you, I said, all right, that's okay. We love Ben Carson. Nobody like Ben. Secretary of Energy, I introduced Chris Wright, and Secretary of Veterans Affairs, Doug Collins. I know Doug so well. Oh, where's Doug? Where's Doug? That voice during the Mueller hearings, that beautiful voice. Do you know, remember the catastrophe that every Democrat remembers this, when Mueller went to testify? This was not a good situation. That's where it all ended, Pam, when he didn't know anything about anything. And Doug said, you don't know what we're talking about, do you? No. This was not a good day for them, but it was a good day for justice, I can tell you that, for fair justice. EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin, he ran for governor of New York. In theory, you have no chance, but actually, he almost won. It was a fantastic run, amazing run. And he's very smart. He was a congressman. He was fantastic on the hoax, the various hoaxes I had. I had a lot of hoaxes, so many I don't want to name them all. We don't have enough time, but he was always very strong, great lawyer, tremendous lawyer, and also a big believer in the environment and keeping it good and clean and healthy. And I just want to thank you for the job. And the only thing I ask is that you go speedily, because, you know, a lot of people use the whole process, the environmental impact process, to delay projects. We just want them to go quickly. And you can get the same answer in a matter of months as opposed to a matter of years. I feel so strongly, because people are coming in with tremendous amounts of money. I have been spoken to by yesterday I had Tim Cook in the office from Apple. He's investing hundreds of billions of dollars. I don't know, I hope he's announced it. Hope I didn't announce this, but what the hell? All I do is tell the truth. That's what he told me. Now he has to do it, right? So it's a good. But he's investing hundreds of billions of dollars, and others too. We're going to have a lot of chip makers coming in, a lot of automakers coming in. They stopped 2 plants in Mexico. They were under construction, starting construction. They just stopped them. They're going to build here instead because they don't want to pay the tariffs. The tariffs are amazing. It's good. I got myself in a lot of trouble. I said it's my favorite word in the dictionary, the word tariff. It's such a beautiful word. And the fake news killed me. They said, what about love? What about God? What about family? And I said, I'm in trouble. I said, so now it's my 4th favorite word. I say, love, God, family. A couple of others I could add in there too, but it's my 4th favorite word. So, and OMB Director Russell Vogt, thank you, Russell. You're going to be incredible. I know he took some hits, but I know how good he is, how honest he is, and he's fantastic with the numbers. And you're seeing these numbers coming out with the theft, right? And it's tremendous fraud, waste, and abuse, and all 3 of them. But I think the fraud is really the biggest. I think you're going to see it. You come out as soon as you can, I think, with your numbers, but because they're not explainable. They're not explainable. So I just, Russell, do a great job, that's all. SBA Administrator, small business. Now, small business is really big business. It's actually one of the biggest banks in the world. It sounds a little bit like, oh, small, little business. It is a massive, it is one big sucker, right? And Kelly Loeffler's here, so she's going to be incredible. And she's got an incredible husband, Jeff, who's one of the most important people in the world of finance. And he knows. He owns a thing called the New York Stock Exchange, so that's not so bad, right? And you have natural experience, but I think you're going to do great. And there's a lot of fraud in there from the past, you know, with all the money that was handed out. It was, you know, billions and billions of dollars. Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. Where's Tulsi? Is she here? Hi, Tulsi. I haven't really seen you. Good luck. Do well. Have fun. We built a building. The building cost like $12 billion. The building is loaded up with intelligence. Lots of luck figuring it out, right? Good. It was, he was treated pretty rough for a person that's an incredible patriot. We've all known that. So it's nice that you're sitting with Bobby, because you too, you went through a lot. But you know what? You're going to be stars. And over the past month, our new administration has taken unrelenting action to fix every single disaster that we inherited, and we inherited a lot of them, the border being, I think, Actually, I think it's the most difficult one of all. The rest we can get fixed, including foreign countries that are doing things that they shouldn't be doing. And one of the reasons that we won the election by so much, because we won it in everywhere. We won the popular vote. We won the 7 swing states, all 7 by a lot. And we won by millions of votes, the popular. It's always hard. I guess it hasn't happened in a couple of decades for a Republican to win the popular vote. I think that that's changing so rapidly. But we had another thing that was pretty amazing. We had, of the 3,000 counties, we won 2,500 of them. And the Democrats won 500. It's a lot. They've never seen anything like it. It would actually, you would have thought that the numbers would even be much higher. When you win 2,500 counties to 500 counties, that's, when you look at the map, you've all seen the map, the one that got certified and came out just recently. It's like almost totally red. And it's my honor. We're going to just work it out. But we've really become the party of common sense, and I think it's important. I think it's important for the Democrats' common sense too. We're going to deal with you, and we're going to deal on a common sense basis. And I know a lot of you agree with a lot of the things. I don't know. Sometimes you're not allowed to say it, unfortunately. But I think we'll be all better off if everybody says it. That includes Republicans saying the right things. So on day one, I declared a national emergency on our southern border to stop the invasion of our country, because we were being invaded. Millions and millions of people. I figure 21 million people, and of that, 2 or 3 million were criminals. And many of them were people that countries didn't want. They would put them in these massive, large caravans. I came up with that name a long time ago. That's what it is. It's a caravan. And these are people, in many cases, they might not be criminals, but they're people that the country didn't want. They didn't work. They didn't. They needed help all the time, or they needed assistance, or whatever. Our country's got a lot of people in it right now, and we're going to make sure that everybody's treated fairly. But we got to change it. It's the most difficult problem, I think. Additionally, the heroes of ICE have been really hunting down the really bad ones, and we are going. They're incredible people. ICE. They were being shunned by Biden. They were being mocked. And let me tell you, these are tough men and women, but they're tough. They'll see like a MS-13 band of thugs out on Long Island, and they'll bring up the paddy wagons. They get in, and they'll say, no, one of them, 2 of them, killed 2 young girls in Long Island. For some reason, they like Long Island. MS-13 loves Long Island. I don't know what that's all about. But 2 young girls walking to school, 16 years old. In the morning, they were accosted by a group of MS-13 thugs, and they don't use guns as much. They use knives. They like using knives, and they cut them up, cut them into pieces, and left them, and killed them, cut them up into pieces, little pieces. And they used knives because it's more painful. And ICE went in. They have no fear of these guys. They went in and they just knocked the hell out of them. And they'll go into a pack. They call it a pack, not like a political pack. Political packs are slightly nicer. But a pack of these MS-13 people, or Tren de Aragua people from Venezuela, and they'll just walk in. It's all you'll see is fists going for 5 minutes, and then you'll see these guys walk out, and they got them between their legs, and they're bringing them, getting them the hell out of the country. These are rough people that we have to deal with. But ICE is incredible. Border Patrol is incredible. Law enforcement, the people in law enforcement, we make their job so difficult by allowing people like this into our country. We just shouldn't do it. So I've just designated the group from Venezuela, Tren de Aragua, as a foreign terrorist organization. I mean, in Colorado, they went in, and other places, they literally take over. They're like me. They're in the real estate business. They take over real estate. And they literally take it over. They just claim it. And they tell tenants to get the hell out if you don't get out. They had one case where a guy called the cops, and they went in. You call the cops? Yes. And they cut off his fingers. He says, you don't call them anymore. You cut off the other fingers on your other hand. These are not nice people. But federal, state, and local cooperation has to be the backbone of border security. So I hope, as governors, I know all the Republicans are very much in tune with Tom Homan and Christie and everybody, but I hope everybody, because ultimately you want to get the criminals out of your state. And we're focusing on the really bad ones. We have 11,088 people that we know of that are murderers, that are actually murderers. And I can't imagine anybody wanting them in their state, whether you're a Republican or whether you're a Democrat or whatever you may be. I mean, we have many of them murdered more than one person. Some murdered more than 5 people, and they're in our country. They let them out of jails. These were convicted people, and they let them out of jails because it's very expensive to have somebody in jail for a lifetime or whatever it might be. And they brought them in here. The American people expect every city and state to fully honor ICE detainer requests, and we hope they can, and to ensure the safe transfer of criminal aliens into federal custody for immediate removal from our country. You know, many of the countries said, we're not ever going to let them back. Under the Biden administration, I remember it's Venezuela. He's a tough guy. And others, they said, we're not letting them back. They're out of here, and you'll never bring them back. They're not coming into this country. And Biden said, oh, we can't bring them back. They won't take them. Well, we took them. And every single country now, you saw it with Colombia, you saw it with Venezuela. In fact, they actually offered to send planes to pick them up, and they'll pick them up so that we don't have to go through the expense of sending a plane. Is that correct, Marco? Even Marco couldn't believe that one. But they literally are sending planes to pick up these people. And they're rough people, and they're picking them up, and they're putting them in the planes. There's no excuse for any state attempting to aid and abet dangerous criminals, killers, drug dealers, really bad people who are violating federal law and violating the law by being in our country. To combat inflation, I declared a national energy emergency, and we had to do that. One of the things we've done is by doing that, we can go very quickly. You know, a lot of companies are coming in, but they need tremendous electricity, amounts of electricity. Who would have thought, Doug, right? But they need more electricity for AI than we have right now in the country. In other words, we have electricity now for the whole country. They need that just for that one industry. So they're coming in with, and we're going to be leading. We're now leading on that. We've really opened it up, and I hope it's good. But we opened it up, and we're leading China by a lot. But China's giving them tremendous electricity because they do whatever they want to do. But we're working with Lee. And I've told these people they're going to spend hundreds of billions, trillions of dollars, actually. So I need double the energy that we have right now, and even more than that, from what I'm understanding, which is hard to believe. In other words, take every car, everything, every building. We need, whatever it is, 100% of the energy. We need that amount just to be in the #1 position. And we need really more than that to really dominate, which I think we'll be dominating. But I told them, and they can't believe it, I said, we're going to get you quick approvals, and you're going to build your own electric plants so that you're going to create your own electricity when you build your plant, which will be massive. These are massive plants. But when you build your plant, we're going to let them build an electric generating plant where they build like a utility. In other words, instead of using Con Edison, like we have in New York, hello, Governor, nice to see you back there. And we do have Con Edison, and they don't do a bad job, actually. But, they could be a little cheaper with the price, perhaps, but they don't do bad. But we build our own utility. They can have their own utility. If they have any extra, they can put it onto the grid. But this way, they're not subject to a bad grid or a dangerous grid or a grid that gets taken out by bombs or war or anything else. So they actually couldn't believe it. They said, you think you could get that approved? Yeah, I'll get that approved very quickly. They couldn't believe it, and they're so happy. And they're going to do some in Virginia, some big ones. But we're going to go, and this way, it's really a self-service. They just have this massive building with a large electric generating facility that'll be powered by natural gas, mostly. Some will use coal, some will use nuclear, clean coal. I only say clean coal, but some will use nuclear. They have their right to do it. None will use wind because wind doesn't work. It's just terrible how an environmental person can like wind. It kills the birds. It's very expensive. It's 7, 8 times more expensive than other forms of energy. Every wind turbine in the country that goes up needs massive subsidies. It's really the only energy that needs subsidy, essentially. The solar's doing okay. So it's the only one. But to combat inflation, I declared that national energy emergency, and we're going to unleash the liquid gold under our feet to bring the prices way down. That's going to happen. And again, we're going to have a big part of that's going to be natural gas, which is very, very clean, and clean coal. We're going to do as many forms of energy as we can. And it's going to be something I think everybody knows, and you're going to call me or anybody else if you have difficulty or problems, but you're going to have levels of business being brought to this country that you've never seen before. The tariffs are bringing them more than anything else. The country's bringing them, but the tariffs are bringing them. They hadn't been here, and we're creating tremendous tax incentives. But the biggest incentive is they don't want to pay 100% tariff or 200%. Or whatever it may be. And as you know, we're going to be announcing tariffs on cars from foreign countries of 25%. That'll be done in probably April 2nd. I was going to do it April 1st, but I said, I don't like that date. It's going to cost a lot of money to wait one day. You know, I don't know. What do I do there, Pam? Maybe should I do it just April 1st? It costs a lot of money, that extra day, Marco. You figure what that costs. Let's do it April 2nd, right? I just don't want to take the abuse. We created the new Department of Government Efficiency, which you may have heard about, DOGE, which is now waging war on government waste, fraud, and abuse. And we've begun the largest deregulation of industries and other things. It's proper deregulation that has ever done. I lead the way on my first 4 years. We did more deregulation than any other president in history. And I brought a little list along that I thought I'd just read some of the places when you mentioned DOGE, some of the places that this money has gone. And these are the ones that I feel I could read. There are some that are so nasty and dirty and horrible that I don't want to really read them because I assume they have television on. I have a guarantee they do. I let the press in today because we have nothing to hide, right? It's much better. They said, do you want to let the press in? I said, why not? You think Biden would do that? I don't think so. $520 million was given for a consultant to do ESG, that's environmental, social, and governance investments in Africa. $520 million, $25 million to promote biodiversity, conservation, and social responsibility behavior in the country of Colombia. $25 million, $40 million to improve the social and economic inclusion of sedentary migrants. They have no place in particular they were thinking of. There is no location. The money was sent out, but they have no idea where it's going. $42 million for social and behavior changes in Uganda, and $10 million for Mozambique medical male circumcision. People that want to be or have to be circumcised in Mozambique. $14 million for improving public procurement in Serbia. $486 million to a consortium for elections and political process strengthening, of which $22 million was for inclusive participatory political process in Moldova. And $21 million going to my friend, Prime Minister Modi in India, for voter turnout. We're giving $21 million for voter turnout in India. What about us? I want voter turnout too, Governor. $29 million to strengthen the political landscape in Bangladesh. Went to a firm that nobody ever heard of. Got $29 million. They got a check. Can you imagine you have a little firm, you get 10,000 here, 10,000 there. And then we get $29 million from the United States government. There are 2 people working in that firm. 2 people. I think they're very happy. They're very rich. They'll be on the cover of a very good business magazine pretty soon for being great scammers. $20 million for fiscal federalism, and $19 million for biodiversity in Nepal, and $47 million also for improving learning outcomes in Asia. Asia. He's got a lot of money. $50 million plus another $50 million for condoms for Hamas. They gave $50 million, and it worked out so well, they gave another $50 million a little bit later. Condoms, $100 million for Hamas. And we're also uncovering outrageous incompetence and fraud in the Social Security, and I read this last night, so Governor, you're going to be bored hearing this, but you never get bored because it's not possible to even believe it. So if you live 100 years, it's a long time, but let's assume that they had millions and millions of people living, because they have like 10 million people in the Social Security living. But let's go over 100. So now you're more than 100 years old. We have 4.7 million Social Security numbers, people from the age of 100 to 109. So if you're 100 to 109, we have 4.7 million people on our Social Security rolls, right? Well, that's a lot of people. I knew one guy who was 100. The great Lenny Litwin, he was a builder in Manhattan. He lived to 103. You knew him. He was one of the greatest builders. He was so happy. The reason he lived, he loved building. He'd build a building a year, right? Never had a problem. You knew Lenny Litwin, I would think, Governor, right? He was a great guy and got along with everybody. He got along with Democrats, Republicans. Everybody loved Lenny. When he died, it was a bad day for New York, I'll tell you. He was a great guy. But he lived to 103, 104 because he just loved his business. He was designing a new building at 103, and that was the end of it. He didn't quite get the design finished. But you had 3.6 million people aged 110, substantially older than good old Lenny. From 110 to 119, you have 3.6. These are the people on the rolls. Now we're looking to see whether or not they've been paid, because if they've been paid, then you're just using those numbers to take out the money, all the money that's paid to those people. 3.47 million people from the age of 120 to 129. 3.9 million people age 130 to 139. 3.5 million people age 140 years old to 149 years old. I think this is the case for Pam. I think I might give you this, Pam, just you can have it. In fact, I will. 1.3 million from age 150. There's 1.3 million people, they're saying, are alive and receiving Social Security. Now, that's the only thing we're checking. Are they receiving it? Because if they're receiving it, that makes it much worse. If they're not receiving it, that just makes it incompetent. They shouldn't be on the rolls. And the only thing good about this is that when we take all these people off the rolls, and we have tremendous fraud underneath, people that are 80 and 60 and 50 and everything else, but this is really incredible. 1.3 million from 150 to 159, and over 130,000 people are on the rolls of Social Security over the age of 160 years old, including 1,039 people between the ages of 220 and 229. So we have, think of that, we have 1,039 people who are 220 years old to 229. We have one person at 240 years old, and here's the beauty of them all. We have one person at 360, which is strange because the country is 250. So it's been there 110 years older than the country. Here, Pam, you better take a look at this. That's much better for you than for me. Now the question is, are they getting paid? Because somebody maybe is getting paid. Yeah, I have a feeling you were. I said, what a convenient thing. This is so nice. We created this department, DOGE, and the kind of numbers are incredible. It could be $500 billion, but it could be $1 trillion. It could be even $1.5 trillion. We're going to find out. I mean, I'm actually going with Elon, and Elon is doing a really good job. And I said, who are these people that travel? We call them the Dogers. And I said, what are they? He said, they're generally young people with extremely high IQs who are very good with computers, because you have to be good with computers. So when one of these scammers talks and tries to tell them why it's perfect, they said, no, it doesn't work that way. You know, it's very hard to talk them out of something when they have you. But we're actually going to Fort Knox because I want to see, do we have the gold? Do we still have whatever it is, tons of gold I hope we do. Wouldn't that be disappointing? Fort Knox. You grow up hearing about Fort Knox. You can't get in. You can't even see it. Nobody sees it. You go there and the place is dry. Would that be terrible? There's another one. Maybe you should go with us to that one. But we're going to go in there pretty soon. They're going to open the doors to Fort Knox. If any governor would like to go with us, well, good. You want to go with us on that one, Ron? That could be good. Could be interesting. Can you imagine if we open it up and there's no gold? Well, I think there will be. For one reason, it's really heavy. You know, you steal or borrow gold, you got to be strong. So it's not like other things. But we're looking at everything. We have the largest deregulation campaign in history, and we are, again, I did more than anybody, but this blows it away. And for one, every time we put in a new regulation, we're not allowed to put it in unless we terminate 10 old regulations. So it's 1 in 10. We did 1 in 7 in my last administration. And the problem is some of them were put back, foolishly put back. There was no reason for them. So if you truly want a turbocharged economy, you have to do that, and you have to get rid of the regulations. I think one of the reasons before COVID, and we did a great job with COVID and it was a hell of a thing for all of us, everybody here. But some countries will actually never recover for what they went through. But we ended up giving back. When we turned over the reins, the stock market was higher than just previous to COVID coming in, which was an amazing achievement. But we were, just prior to that, I would never forget, I was sitting down with 2 consultants, the 2 great pollsters. They said, sir, this economy is so good. We're the greatest economy in the history of the world. We were doubling up China. I was also charging China hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs, which no president charged them anything, but they were killing us. But we were beating everybody. Everybody said that in 2018, China was going to overtake us as the biggest economy in the world. And by the time I got finished, we were so much bigger than China, and we still are now. But another 4 years like we had just passed, you will have China being much bigger than you. There's no reason. If we have a smart president, there's no way that they should ever be able to catch us. But this pollster said to me, sir, if Abraham Lincoln and George Washington came back from the dead and they ran as president and vice president, they'd never be able to beat you. I said, thank you very much. The next day I go into my office and a group of scientists are sitting there. Sir, would like to tell you there's something very bad happening in China. There's dead bodies all over the place. And that's the first time I heard the word pandemic in a long time. And that's where it started. And you know where they were? All around the Wuhan lab. That's why from day one, I was saying they had little slits like this. You saw them from the air, from space. And they were just little slits, but they were body bags. They were black body bags all over, so many. And that's where it came from. One other thing, just before we leave, I think you should do this. For my safety and security and for the good of our nation, you should do it anyway, regardless, even if it costs 10 times more, but it actually costs you just a tiny fraction. If you went to paper ballots and you're voting, and I would hope that every Republican would, so it costs exactly 8% of what the machines cost. These machines, they got something going. They get business. It's amazing. So paper ballots, and paper is very sophisticated today. It's called watermark. It's impossible to copy, impossible to cheat. It's actually hard to believe that a piece of paper is highly sophisticated, but it's watermark, and it's it's amazing actually when you see it. You can't cheat. But if you went to paper ballots and same-day voting, and if you went to voter ID, and also one other thing, you want a proof of citizenship. Those 4 things: proof of citizenship, voter ID, paper ballots, 1-day voting. And if you went to 2-day voting or 3-day voting, but some of these states, you had 64 days. You know, California just finished up just a short while ago. They were voting a week and a half ago. They're trying to finish them up. And other states, too. They were weeks after the election. I mean, if that were a close election, you'd have to wait for weeks and weeks and weeks. You got finished fast, Brian. Thank you for your help. We did very well in Georgia. That was very nice. But some of these states, if you had a close election, you wouldn't know who won. And then, once that happens, then you really never know who won. But you would save tens of millions of dollars, forgetting about right, wrong, and security, safety, our country, our Constitution, and all of this. Number one, you'd have a much safer election. Number two, everybody, you'd know the results of your election by 10 o'clock. Everybody, it's a beautiful system. It's boxes of 5,000, boom, boom. And you can go and examine each box. It's so simple and so good. I did ask Elon, because he knows more about computers than anybody I know. I said, what do you think of the voting system? He said, computers are not meant for voting. It's just not it's too many transactions taking place too quickly. It's just not, he said, honestly, and I've gone to the best people, the smartest computer minds from MIT, from others. My uncle was a professor for 41 years at MIT and a brilliant guy, and I got to know a lot of the people up there. And they will tell you that the most secure way that you can secure the election, and probably the fastest way, because there can be very little hanky-panky, is paper ballots. Can you believe it? So I hope, Sarah, that certainly the Republican governors, but if you want to save a lot of money, you go to paper ballots. It'll cost you 8% of what the costs are now. And that's based on a good deal for machines. And then when you go through the days and weeks and months of waiting, France had mail-in ballots. Anytime you have mail-in ballots, you're going to have fraud, without question. And France had it, and they went back to paper ballots. And I saw their election, and their election was over at 9 o'clock, and their numbers came in at 10:05. And there were no complaints. They had a winner, they had a loser, 39 million votes, and it was done. We're one of the only people that has now mail-in voting, one of the only countries that has mail-in voting. Remember Jimmy Carter when he did a commission, and I think they had Scoop Jackson, they had some, at the time, big senators, and their conclusion was, if you have mail-in voting, you're going to have massive fraud. And we had it in New York with the congressional race. Remember the congressional race? It took them forever like 6 months later, they declared, who was it, Jerry Nadler or somebody? They declared him the winner, 6 months later. But it was somebody. Oh, no, it was the woman, the congressman. I won't mention her name. But she won, but she didn't win. And it was really very sad to see that whole thing. Democrat, that was a Democrat and a Democrat. That was a primary, but they had the mail-in voting. It's just a disaster. So it's very, very expensive. If you want to save money, if you really believe that the computers work, which they don't, but if you want to save a lot of money, all you have to do is go to paper ballots, and you'll be cutting it down by millions and millions of dollars. So America will take off like a rocket ship. You're going to see things. It's so great for the governors, and Democrat governors are going to have, you're going to get the benefit of this. You're going to be opening up plants, and you're going to be, I hope we have enough people. We're going to and we want people to come into our country, by the way, I do, but they have to come in legally. So we need people in the country, but they have to come in legally. 2 weeks ago, I signed an executive order banning men from playing in women's sports. Many Democrats are fighting me on that. I hope you continue, because you'll never win another race. And it's just crazy. If you look at what happened with the boxing, if you look at what happened with the weightlifting numbers, where a record that hadn't been broken for 19 years got shattered. But, they put up an eighth of an ounce here, an eighth of an ounce there, and it's 218 pounds or whatever, a lot. And hadn't been broken in 19 years. And then a guy walks up who transitioned. He transitioned, and he knocked out that record by about 100 pounds. That will be a record not going to be broken again in a long. So we put a ban on it, and to protect women. I mean, the women, if you watch the Olympics, you had two transitioned people that were fighting in the women's boxing. They have women's boxing category. And if you saw that, it was brutal. What happened to the Italian woman was a really good boxer. After one punch, she said, no more. I've never been hit. It was a left. It was not even was just a left jab. She got hit so hard, she said, I can't do it. They forced her to go out. No, go out again. You'll do it. Goes out again, gets hit again. No, that's it. She didn't want to die, and it's crazy, but the NCAA has complied immediately, by the way. That's good. But I understand Maine, is Maine here, the governor of Maine? Well, are you not going to comply with it?
I'm complying with state and federal laws.
Well, we are the federal law. Well, you better do it. You better do it because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And by the way, your population, even though it's somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. So you better comply because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding.
See you in court.
Every state, good. I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one. And enjoy your life after governor because I don't think you'll be in elected politics. Every state has a responsibility to comply with Title IX. They have an obligation, a legal obligation, and we'll be enforcing aggressively, and we're going to be protecting our citizens. We're going to protect. So just to end, this administration has been fighting for parents' rights and universal school choice. We want to do something that I think many people in this room want, and even if you don't, I think you do want it, but you might not be able to say it. We want to move the schools back to the states so that Iowa and South Carolina and Georgia and all these states can run your own school system. And you'll do a fantastic job, Kim. You're going to do great. I mean, I use your example because you're so much into the education, done a great job with school choice, and you'll do your school choice. That'll be the easy thing. But we want to get it back, take it away. So just some stats. So at last, it's usually we're 38, 39, or 40 out of 40. They take the 40, I guess, biggest, most important, whatever it might be, but 40 countries. And we were 38, 39, and congratulations, but 2 months ago, 3 months ago, we hit number 40. So we were last in terms of education in the world. And we were first in another category, though. We were first in cost per pupil. So we spend much more. And by the way, second wasn't even close. So you have Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Finland, China. So there goes the big country theory, right? They have 1.4. They're rated number 5. That's a little bit scary, isn't it? But they're all rated well spend much less per pupil than we do. We spend the most per pupil and we're rated less. Think of that. Can anything be worse than that, Sarah? Huh? So what happens is we are going to make a very strong push on closing up the Department of Education. We'll have one person sitting there just to make sure that they're teaching English, reading, writing, and arithmetic, okay? Just, that's all. The rest of it is up to the governors. We have great governors, really smart people. Brian, I think you'd love to have it in Georgia because you could do a great job. And you're being told, Ron would love, Ron sitting there saying, oh, give me the education. You're being told by people in Washington that don't know much about your state and maybe don't like your state, maybe don't like you, maybe don't like your pupils, about what they should be doing. And I'll tell you what, we will compete. Many of our states, I figure 35 of them, we're going to have 35 great ones. We're going to have 5 that are okay. Then we'll have another 5 that are blah. And then we're going to have 4 or 5 not so good. But in a place like New York, we could take it as an example, Westchester County. You go Westchester, Suffolk. You go out in Long Island, you do upstate New York. You know, you break it up into quadrants, Manhattan. But I think you could do a great job. I think the states will do a fantastic job. And we send the money directly to the states. And we're not looking even for the cuts, but you'll spend a lot less money. You're going to spend a lot less money. You know, as somebody that spent a lot of time in Washington over the last number of years, it seems like every building is a Department of Education. But I'm saying, what do these people do? What do they do? But if we could send education back, and Linda, as you know, is going through the process right now, and I think she's doing really well. She's great, Linda McMahon. And I said, Linda, you're trying. I really want you to do a great job, but you're really only doing a great job if you have no job by the time we finish. You have to create no job for yourself because we want this to go back to the states, and she agrees. And if we can do that, I think it's going to be one of the most important things we can do. So the governors, the people in this room, Democrat, Republican, will run their own school system, and we'll back them 100%, and we'll pay like we do now. But I think we'll end up having to pay probably half. But that's not the reason I'm doing it. I'm doing it because we give really bad education. And as far as the teachers union, I love teachers. And I imagine unions might form in some of these places, and if they do, that's fine, you'll deal with it. So this isn't against unions, it's because I won unions. I won the Teamsters. When you win the Teamsters, that's serious. But I put in a person as Secretary of Labor who I really did it because the unions treated me so well. The auto workers, I mean, so many of the unions, the firefighters, the police unions, I got like 98% of the vote. We're looking for the other 2%. Nobody can find them. So, you know, I grew up in New York, which was union territory. But we want to be able to have great education. If we don't have education in this country is going to go down. When you hear China is rated number 4 and 5 every year, and, you know, they're a serious competitor. So I want to thank you all. And I do want to say again, call me at any time. I will take your call. If you're a Democrat, I will put you ahead of the Republican. If I have a Democrat or Republican call, Simon, I will put the Democrat first. Okay, I promise. And probably, sort of promise, right? No, I will. We'll take good care of the people in this room. And it's an honor to be with you. You're very, very smart people. To do what you do, to get elected, it's a tough business. But if you could take back education, and if we could do some of the things that we just laid out very easily in this plan, and you have a federal government that's behind you all the way. We'll be sending help. As an example, if we do get rid of FEMA, which we should, it's very expensive, doesn't work. But we'll be sending federal help in if you have a big hurricane or a tornado or all of the things that I've been watching. And you'll be taken care of much, much better than you're taken care of now. You have to wait around for these people to come, and they come so late. But the worst example was what you had to go through in North Carolina. What happened there was a terrible thing. So congratulations on your victories, and you're going to have many more victories. And I'm here for you. If you want to ask a couple of questions, you could, if you'd like to. Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I think we share excitement about disaster response and how we can make it better. We we've all had disasters. We usually love to see the president after a disaster that's, never fun. We have fires, other people have floods, hurricanes. We want to be a part of helping to make a federal emergency response work, changing FEMA so they're not putting square pegs in round holes. So involve our group because we're the ones on the other end of it saying, oh my God, why are they coming with this when we need that?
Right.
So we're ready to help.
Good. Thank you very much. It's very nice. I agree. Yes, please.
President, thank you for welcoming us. As we go through the process of putting in your priorities as president, would you give us an opportunity to speak with you about, say, return on investment?
Sure.
Before we go, for example, we've heard and we'll wait the decisions you make and the Secretary will make, but for instance on Medicaid or Medicare,
sure.
If cuts are proposed, perhaps give us an opportunity as governors to prove to you that we can make these programs worthwhile. That might help us on our
I
budgets.
love that. I think it's great, Bobby. I think it's great. One of the things we're really focused on is bringing down the costs. And we haven't been treated very fairly, especially over the last 4 years. And as you know, we had transparency, which is one of the biggest things that could have happened. And Biden, for whatever reason, terminated that. That would have brought down the costs tremendously. But we'd love to have your ideas on any of them, Medicare, Medicaid, any of it. And we will, if those ideas are good. You probably have better ideas than anybody as governor. So we would love that. Thank you.
On that issue of healthcare, we've talked about it before. If we reform the healthcare industry, and you tried to do that in the first administration, and they tried to fight it back every step of the way. We all deal with high healthcare costs in government and the private sector. And if we reduce that from 20% of our GDP down to 10 to 12, you can pay for a lot of things in government that we can't currently do it. We need to get the industry in line helping us do it as well.
Well, you're a good example of it, and in your state, they've done a good job, but you're going to get those numbers down even lower. I know that. That's something very strong for you. And as you have ideas, I'd love you to pass them along to the other governors here. But there are some states that have done a really, really good job with that, and we are totally open to suggestions, right? Thank you. Yes, Henry?
Mr. President, thank you for having us here. It's the de minimis rule in tariffs. We've got the amount that is self-declared now is $800. If you say your package coming from wherever is under $800, it's not inspected, there's no tariff on it. Problem is there are a lot of things coming in that are over that.
That's right, and we're not doing that anymore.
And also there's fentanyl coming in, I think, to all of these states. That's a real problem, and I think that everyone is sharing that.
Thank you, Henry. So I had a deal with President Xi just prior to leaving office, but before the election, that President Xi was going to give the maximum penalty to anybody sending fentanyl into the United States. His maximum penalty is death. If you notice that every country that has the death penalty has no drug problem. They execute drug dealers. And when you think about it, it's very humane because every drug dealer, on average, they say, kills at least 500 people, not to mention the damage they do to so many others, but they kill large numbers of people. China, Singapore, actually there are quite a few, many in Asia, where they have the death penalty. There's no drug problem whatsoever. They come to our country because we have a much softer policy. We give them a slap on the wrist and say, kill a lot of people. So we're going to, I don't know if our country is ready for it. I am ready for it, the death penalty if you deal drugs. You know, you have to set out guidelines like fairly large numbers, et cetera. But you'll have it go down very greatly. One of the things we're going to do is we're going to do an advertising campaign. They're working on it right now, and that's saying how bad drugs are for you. I was speaking actually to the president of Mexico saying, you know, you can't send the people through your country. And I said, you know, you're not a big drug-taking nation. You send us plenty of drugs, but the people aren't drug-taking. And she said, yes, we're not a consumer nation. That was a very interesting term. And I said, so why aren't you? What are the reasons? Why is it? It's true, Mexico, they don't have a lot of drug problems in terms of taking the drug. He said, well, two things, and a lot of you could do the second thing. He said, we have very strong family values. I said, but so do we. I mean, I see people, they die of a drug overdose. The daughter, the son, the mother and father will never be the same, never be the same. Their life is ruined. Their life is over. I've seen it so much. So we have strong family values, also family members and relationships, just as strong as Mexico. What's the other? Well, we spend a lot of money on advertising saying how bad drugs are for you. And I said, oh, I never learned anything on phone calls. This time I learned something. I said, you know, I never thought of that. Because we set up like committees, and you can't have the death penalty, I guess, but I don't know, someday somebody's going to get sick of it and do it, and you won't have any drug problem in this country. But, and you can do it on an individual state basis for the governors in the room that want to do it, but you will not have a drug problem in your state if you did it. But I will say this, we have a situation where we have now hired a couple of the best agencies, and we're going to spend about 100 million, maybe 200 million on advertising, saying that when you take certain drugs, the drug fentanyl, et cetera, it destroys your skin, it destroys your teeth, it destroys your brain, it destroys everything. And really horrible commercials. I mean, I've seen the first of them, and they are brutal. They are brutal. And when some young kid is sitting down watching this commercial a couple of times, I really don't think they're going to be taking drugs. So I think that this is, I mean, this is a big statement, but I think we can drop it 50%, 50, by doing this. And I give her credit. She was talking to me about it, told me about it. But I knew immediately as soon as she said it, it was not, she didn't have to say anymore. She went on to tell me different things, but it was just the concept of it. And I think states can do that too. If you do commercials talking about how horrible it is, drugs. I mean, what it does, I mean, you look at their skin, it gets eroded, their teeth are, you can tell. I mean, you can see a person that takes a lot of drugs, especially fentanyl and some of the others, the bad ones, the real bad ones, some of them, the heroin. It's unbelievable what it does to people. And we're going to put a very, very strong ads. And now that I'm thinking about it, I think you should put on strong ads too. Really strong ads. I think it's an unbelievable thing. We'll all do it. We're going to do it on a national basis, but you can do it individually on an individual basis. And you can also look, I think, you'll have to get rulings in this, but your states have the right to go death penalty also for drug dealers. And, but only do that if you want to get rid of drugs, because if you don't do that, it's a little tough. But I think the advertising will have a huge, I think we can get it down by 50%. We set up, we did great. We got it down 18%. I said, that's not a lot though. Everybody was giving us credit, oh, 18. And 18% to me, we set up committees with the First Lady of the United States on a blue ribbon committee. But they didn't know too much about El Chapo and the various people that we're talking about. It's a smart group of people. But I'll tell you what, the advertising could be unbelievable. And I hope the states do it. You're not talking about a lot of money. You're talking about peanuts, actually. I mean, with $50 million, you could just cover the state. And if you did that, and I'm going to do it, I think we can get drugs way down. I think we can get it down by 50% when you see it. I've seen some of the ads. It's, man, if a person looks at the ads that I saw, they're not going to be taking drugs. So good question. Thank you, Henry, very much. How about we'll do one more? Yes, please.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
As we've talked as governors, we implement a lot of the social welfare programs, whether it's Medicaid or job training or rental assistance. Each one has different requirements that create cliffs and benefits that make it hard for people to recover. Things as simple as work requirements for able-bodied adults. If we could synchronize across TANF, Medicaid, work programs, let's make it a trampoline to get people back on their feet instead of a hammock they climb into.
I think it's great. I think if you could get together and work together, you'd bring down costs just on that basis. I think it would be really great. Did you want? Go ahead, please.
Mr. President, I want to just say thank you. It's a word, 2 words. A lot of times we don't say thank you for your extraordinary leadership, your courage, all that you do. And just so you know, even in the state of Nebraska, you're inspiring Nebraskans to get comfortable being uncomfortable, to stand up for what we believe in: faith, family, hard work, the American dream. Stand up and talk about the common sense. So we're incredibly grateful.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Good-looking crowd today. I love it. All right, so we are going to be doing our podcast live, so I'm going to give you guys a countdown. You guys are going to be in the podcast with us. I'm going to say we're from CPAC. I want you guys to be as loud as you possibly can. Are you ready? All right, here we go. Welcome. It is Verdict with Ted Cruz, live from CPAC 2025. I like this being our annual time to hang out with fun people.
Well, it is great to be back with CPAC, and I got to say, CPAC this year, there is energy, there's excitement. It turns out winning doesn't suck.
It does not.
And we have a guest. We have the Attorney General of the United States, Pam Bondi.
They finally did, and I get to do it in front of all of you, so this is awesome.
Well, Pam, I will tell you that there is some good karma to being on this podcast at CPAC, because the last guest we had at CPAC was someone named J.D. Vance, and he's done all right for himself.
Yeah. He's a great man.
So, welcome.
Thank you.
You have been Attorney General 15 days.
It feels like 15 years.
I believe you. And by the way, you just got some help. An hour ago, the Senate just finished confirming.
Yes, isn't that great? Been on the phone with him nonstop.
I talked to him on the ride over here. He is going to do fantastic.
There is.
All right, let's start. 15 days. You've come into what I think is the single most important cabinet position in this administration. Because we went through 4 years of Biden weaponizing the Department of Justice, using it to attack his enemies and to support his friends. So let me ask you, you come into DOJ, you've got a mission. You've got a mission to restore integrity to the department, to end the weaponization and politicization. How do you do that? How do you get that done?
You know, the volume, Senator, what concerned me the most, it's the volume of how bad it was. And it still is. We're working on it. It's day by day by day. But we've got a team of great people, and on day one, I issued 14 executive orders, and number one is the weaponization ends, and it ends now. And that's what we did.
Let me ask you something. In the 15 days you've been there, how many DOJ employees have said something to the effect of, thank God?
A lot of them.
I believe you. Look, I spent 4 years hearing from AUSAs, assistant U.S. attorneys, hearing from FBI agents, hearing from men and women who believe in the rule of law and were horrified at the politicization of the FBI and the DOJ. And so I know for a lot of good, honorable men and women who've devoted their careers to defending the Constitution, there's a lot of gratitude that they can get back to doing their job.
Their core function, and that's thanks to Donald J. Trump getting back in office. And he gave us a clear directive, make America safe. And that's what we're going to do. And, you know, to start with the law enforcement agencies talking about cash, these men and women didn't go to Quantico. They're not risking their lives to waste their time on all this politicization and raiding Mar-a-Lago. Really? Stopping. All of that is stopping. And we are returning them to their core function, fighting violent crime. And that's what the great majority of men and women in law enforcement, DEA, ATF, U.S. Marshals, FBI, as well as the incredible legal team at the Justice Department, that's what they want to do.
So let's talk about one of the most lawless aspects of the last 4 years, which was the open borders that we saw and the 12 million illegal immigrants that have come into this country. You've had just 2 weeks, but you've hit the ground running, going after the criminals, going after the murderers, going after the rapists, going after the child molesters, going after the Venezuelan gang members. Tell us, number one, what you're doing as Attorney General that is making a real difference, that is already making America safer. And number two, I understand you have some breaking news concerning my home state of Texas, which I'm particularly proud to hear.
I do. And the press release isn't even out yet. Joint Task Force Alpha that we elevated once we came in office. It's with the Department of Justice and the FBI, and we work hand in hand with Homeland Security. Christy Nome is awesome. Yep. We all work so well together. Joint Task Force Alpha just made a huge arrest in Juarez, Mexico. They were headed to Texas, to El Paso, human smuggling. Yeah, huge. That's why we do what we do every day. Yep. That's why these agents risk their lives every single day. It's human smuggling, and a lot of children, they're saying, are safer because of this.
Let me ask you a question. President Trump, and this has made headlines on what you were just talking about, we've designated these cartels as terrorist organizations. What does that allow you to do in your job? And Kash Patel now is the head of the FBI. What is that going to give you the ability to do and to go after them?
Well, Stephen Miller is doing a great job, head of, as we are, right? Leading this effort with all of us. Mike Waltz at DOD. We all work so, Pete Hegseth, we all work so well together. And it gives us the ability, they are a terrorist group. And it gives us the ability to go after them, more ability, anywhere in the world, and treat them as terrorists. They are terrorists. If you're bringing fentanyl into this country and killing our kids, you're a terrorist, and we're coming after you.
300 a day is the average that are dying in this country right now. When you took this job and you hear that number and you saw the inaction from the last administration, how angry did that make you?
So angry. You know, I was state AG before I became United States Attorney General, and fentanyl was really just coming on the market. And now with this horrible open border policy just flowing across our borders and killing kids, killing adults every single day. And it's criminal that no one was doing anything to stop it. I can't comprehend how any administration, progressive nor conservative, how any administration could tolerate that and let that happen. And it ended day one with Donald Trump when he shut that border. I was at the border back in September. I went with Laura Trump and Morgan Ortagus.
Yep.
And we were in Yuma, Arizona, and I saw firsthand, there is nothing humanitarian that was happening at that border. Nothing, nothing. They have a rape tree where they're raping women as they're coming into this country. I saw firsthand piles and piles of passports just thrown from every country you can imagine, because the Biden administration was letting you walk right in the country. If you didn't have a passport, they said they saw Asian, Chinese individuals saying, oh, we're from Cuba. So they wrote down they're from Cuba and had to let them legally walk right in under that administration. But the drugs, the trafficking, I learned a new term, disposable child. The customs, the Border Patrol agents told me that they saw a little boy and they kept recognizing the same little boy over and over and over coming in. Because if you came into our country as a family unit, they just let you walk right in.
Yep.
Well, this little child was being trafficked.
Yes.
Now, how they were getting him back to Mexico is beyond me. But they were bringing him time and time again. He wasn't their family, so who knows what happened to his parents.
Well, and I will say a number of people in the room gasped at a term you use, which unfortunately is a real term, rape tree.
Yeah.
And it's something that we've been seeing for the last 4 years in Texas. We've seen it in Arizona, that the cartels will go and violently rape women. They'll violently rape teenage girls, young girls, and then they will hang their underwear in the tree. And you'll find a tree down on the southern border with 10, 20 pairs of underwear as they're mocking law enforcement, saying, we can do whatever we want. And for 4 years, the Biden Justice Department, they just turned a blind eye, and they facilitated it. You know, you talked about the kids, so they had a policy. If you arrive with a kid, it's essentially a get-out-of-jail-free card. And so you started seeing a phenomenon that we've never seen in immigration before, which is single young men showing up with little kids. Now, that's not a normal pattern of migration, but we started seeing military-age men showing up with little boys and little girls, many of whom are physically and sexually assaulted in transit, and the same kid the cartels would recycle over and over and over again to bring in gang members, to bring in criminals. Now, let me ask this. What is most effective stopping the invasion at the southern border?
The border, closing our borders, which is what we've done. Donald Trump has closed our border. But now, of course, we all know we have so many of these illegal aliens, fighting age men, ages 18 to 35, in our country.
Yep.
Walking around our country. And President Trump has given a strong directive on that.
How concerned are you right now about the 12 million illegal aliens who came in under Joe Biden, and about the risk of terrorism, of Hamas, of Hezbollah, of Palestinian Islamic Jihad, the risk of terrorism targeting Americans across this country?
It's a huge risk, and we all know how bad it is now. And that's what Donald Trump is committed to do, is to take these people out of our country, to prosecute them, to deport them, to get them off our streets. And that's what all of these law enforcement agencies are doing. You know, Laken Riley, of course, that beautiful young woman, University of Georgia, Laken Riley is probably the most prominent name. But look how many Laken Rileys are out there. One victim is too many.
Jocelyn Nungery, Rachel Marin.
Right.
I mean, the numbers just every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to say, so already in the first 2 weeks, you've sued New York, you've sued Chicago.
You can clap for that.
These sanctuary cities that are fighting, and I've got to say, Massachusetts in particular, actually in our last podcast we talked about this, how Massachusetts continues to this day to have violent child rapist illegal immigrants who they release on the streets, and they refuse to notify ICE. They refuse. These are illegal immigrants who could be deported immediately, and the Massachusetts officials take criminals who violently rape little kids. Let me ask you, what is your message to a mayor, to a local official who wants to defy federal immigration law?
Well, our message is very clear. I sued Illinois first. Chicago, first day, and I gave a very strong warning. If you don't comply with the law, you're next. And guess who didn't listen? New York. Kathy Hochul got sued. They all got sued in New York. And if you don't follow the law, you're going to be next. Because we are going to get violent criminals off our street. And, you know, Senator, it's more than that. They're endangering the lives of our great men and women in law enforcement.
Yes.
That's what people don't understand. When you're hiding illegal aliens from law enforcement, you're endangering their lives. It's gonna stop.
So let me ask you, 2 weeks into it, you've been at DOJ. What's your assessment? Is it as bad as you thought it would be? Is it better? Is it worse?
It's worse. Of course, it's no worse.
You inherited chaos.
Worse meaning, yeah, that department had completely lost its mission of fighting violent crime. Look what they did to President Trump. Look at the weaponization, and weaponization ended. And the deep state is very real. I think all of you in this room know that. It's very real. And people trying to undermine everything you're doing. You know, 3 weeks into it, I went in one department and found huge 20 by 20 glossies of Joe Biden, Merrick Garland, and Kamala Harris still hanging up in my office. They're gone. They're gone. They're gone. And guess what's replacing it? A very handsome photo of a man named Donald Trump.
Not the one in the hallway, right? That picture?
That one.
That one, okay, I like that one.
That one's right in replacing. But you know, I make light of that, but that's what's happening.
Yeah.
You know, he had been in office 3 weeks, and the deep state still had those pictures hanging, and that, to me, that's defiant. It's insubordination, not going to happen. But you know, what we said, most people, the majority of the people are great people who went to law school, became prosecutors, became law enforcement agents to fight crime.
You've spent your professional life as a prosecutor.
Career.
How important is it to you to go after bad guys and to get bad guys off the street and keep people safe?
It means everything. And the drug epidemic, you know, the fentanyl just flowing into our country now, the terrorists, the gangs, TDA, Transdagua, MS-13, all of the gangs who are now terrorist organizations. We've got to stop them. And that's why we do what we do. And we all have to work together. And working with Homeland Security has been great, too.
So one of the most shocking statistics from the prior administration is the number 300,000. 300,000 children that the prior administration had in custody and that they lost, that they do not know where they are. We know that many of those children are being abused right now. Tell me about the efforts you and Homeland Security and the Trump administration, the efforts you are doing to find those children and to get them out of harm's way.
That's top priority, and that's Donald Trump's top priority, to find these victims and to save them. And that's what I truly can't comprehend how any administration would let that happen and not care. And that's what we're all fighting for. And, you know, you say, when you take a job with this incredible volume, you think, how do you do it? How do you focus every day? And you do it by saying, if I can save one life, it's worth it.
Well, it's a lot more than one.
But it compounds. That's how you start off, one life.
And it is thousands and ultimately more. So I want to say something to the folks here at CPAC, which is, as many of y'all know, Ben and I do this podcast, Verdict with Ted Cruz. We do it 3 days a week. We do it Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We've got roughly 1 million unique listeners all over the country. And we do this to go around the corporate media, to go directly to the American people and to bring the truth and bring the facts. So I want to ask everyone here, many of y'all already subscribe to the pod, but I want to ask everyone here to pull out your cell phone right now. Pull out your cell phone and text the word verdict, VERDICT. Text the word verdict to 24005. Again, 24005. When you text verdict to 24005, what you'll get back is a link to subscribe to the podcast. Now, if you're under 40, you know what I'm talking about. And if you're not, ask your kids or ask your grandkids. Although I'll say, if you're at CPAC, you're pretty hip and connected. So you may know as well if you're here at CPAC. But every Monday,
and subscribe
Wednesday,
doesn't mean it costs you money to quote your dad.
Oh,
That's
my father points out that my dad is 85, and he said when he hears subscribe, he thinks it's a magazine subscription. There's no charge. It just magically appears in your phone early in the morning on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And we bring in guests like the Attorney General of the United States, and we focus on what is happening, the victories that President Trump is winning, and the news that the corporate media won't cover.
Yeah. I want to ask you...
24005.
I want to ask you a question. It's one that I've been dying to ask you, and it deals with all of the pardons that were given out from Joe Biden at the end. There were a lot that went to his family. Mm-hmm. It is what it is. There's one person he did not pardon. That would be himself. There are a lot of people that think there should be accountability. Should this be something that is looked at to see what he did while he was president?
Don't you find it very interesting, though, that they attempted to prosecute the president for having documents in the most secure place in the world other than the White House, Mar-a-Lago, and he had the security clearance to take them. Yet Joe Biden, who had no security clearance to take them at the time, had them in his garage with his drug addict son going in and out of his garage. Yet what did they say about him?
Too old to prosecute.
Frail old man. But listen, Donald Trump and I have not talked about that at all. This is not about targeting. This is what they do to us. This is not about targeting. This is not about weaponization. This is about keeping America safe and going forward and prosecuting violent criminals. If you committed a crime in this country, no one is above the law. I will say that. No one is above the law.
So Pam, the media are going crazy about New York Mayor Eric Adams and the charges that were dismissed against him.
So glad you brought that up.
Tell us what the story is, what happened there, and why were the charges dismissed?
Sure. And Emil, who has done an incredible job, he worked on this case, he looked at this case. It was an incredibly weak case filed to make deportation harder. That's why they did it. They took one of the biggest mayors in the country off the playing field in order to protect their sanctuary city. This case, it was so incredibly weak. It was about increases in airline tickets, upgrades in airline tickets in his official capacity, without getting into all the details of the fact. I don't even think it could survive a verdict. Excuse me. Incredibly weak case. That is the weaponization of government.
That's lawfare.
That's lawfare. When you're filing cases like that to keep someone who criticized Joe Biden, who said they took away his security clearance so he could not get the details, so he could not help enforce the deportation efforts in New York. And, you know, these people are going after him. Ride a subway in New York. It's not safe.
Yep.
Violent crime is at an all-time high, and that's what they're doing. So it's not about weaponization. It's about ending their weaponization of the government and fighting violent crime and enabling cities like New York and mayors like Eric Adams to enforce Donald Trump's immigration policies.
I want to ask you, and go back to something you said a moment ago. We were talking about cartels, and they have been able to set up networks, and we see this coming up now more often, where they're controlling states and cities and states and the entire flow. And they've been able to do this and set it up without having to worry that anyone's going to stop them. We're seeing this not on border states, but all over the country, this network. At what point do we get to start dismantling that? How long does that take? How much time is that going to take? Because they've been here for quite some time with the last administration.
Yeah, there's a lot I can't talk about now. But very publicly, I think you've seen a lot happen. A lot is happening every day. Our great men and women in law enforcement are out there. It's a joint effort with our office and with Kristi Noem. And again, we all work so well together, whether it's Mike Waltz, Pete.
Y'all are friends. I think people don't understand this. Like, this is a group in this administration, and you and I have talked about this on the show, You guys are friends. Like, y'all know each other before you got here. How important are those relationships that you say, hey, I trust, excuse me, I trust you.
Vital.
I trust you. I trust you. I got your back. Let's go to work.
Vital and crucial. And Mike Watts and Christy, we're on the phone with each other all the time. And to change the topic just a little bit, just to give you an example, Lee Zeldin, a dear friend of mine.
Great guy.
On President's Day.
Running the EPA now.
EPA, Lee Zeldin, great administrator of EPA. I'm on the phone hours with Scott Besson, our Secretary of Treasury, and Lee Zeldin. And, you know, we've seen, thanks to Elon Musk, my buddy's great work.
Yep.
And it's been reported, look what they're doing at EPA. I'm changing the subject a little bit, but they're giving out billions of dollars after Joe Biden lost the election, trying to push this money out the door.
Virtually shoveling cash out the windows.
As they said, gold bars.
Yeah.
Let's throw all the gold bars off the ship.
Yep.
And we're stopping them. We're stopping them in real time. We're going after them. But it's because we all pick up the phone and we talk directly to each other. So we're able to work together, you know, talk to Marco Rubio and look at the men like Steve Witkoff out there, Rick Grinnell, what they're doing working with Marco and Mike Waltz and all the people that they're saving around the world. And that's thanks to one man, Donald Trump. He put all of us in these positions.
Well, and
there's
a turf wars. The consistent thread of the cabinet nominees is that you're all change agents. You all came in with a mission, and it is. Listen, there has never been a first month of any presidency in the history of the United States of America like the last 30 days.
That's right.
Amen.
And I'll tell you, I have had great joy turning to my Democrat colleagues in the Senate and just deadpanning, well, 3 years and 11 months to go. And they literally start twitching. Like they have facial tics that they cannot suppress.
Yeah.
But, all right, Pam, one of the things that people like about this podcast that we try to do is we try to bring people behind the scenes to actually understand what's going on behind closed doors. So tell us about your first day as Attorney General. You're confirmed, and like day one, when you get sworn in, just walk everyone through what day one of being Attorney General of the United States is like.
You go nonstop, and I jokingly said it felt like 15 years because you're working 7 days a week nonstop. And we're all working with each other, and everything we do, it overlaps, and especially with Department of Justice, especially too with all this money going out, the USAID, all of these agencies, and we're going to be helping all these agencies, but you just hit the ground running, literally, and don't look back. I don't look at what time of day it is. I don't think I've slept in 15 days, but you don't want to. And then when you find out about this human trafficking ring that was just broken up, that's why we're all doing what we're doing. And you just keep going forward. And our directive from our boss is so easy, especially on my end, make America safe. And so you just don't, Senator, you don't even, my hardest thing now is I forget to eat. You forget what time it is, and it's 6 o'clock at night, and why do I have a headache? Because I haven't eaten today. Mm-hmm. But you're going nonstop. And it's not me, it's an entire team. I've got Chad Mizell, I've got Emil, I've got Todd Blanche, thank goodness, coming in, and we've got Kash Patel now, so they better look out.
How nice is it to have a boss by the guy by the name of Donald J. Trump who just lets you do your job?
Exactly.
I mean, there's a lot of presidents in the past that have really tried to keep their thumb on people. It seems like he's saying, go. And go get it done and call me when you need me.
Go. He has trusted all of us in all of our various capacities and all the different roles we have, whether it's education or agriculture, all the cabinet, labor, all of the different cabinet secretaries, just to go out and do the best we can. And we want to make all of you proud. And we want to fulfill his directive to make our country great. That man sure didn't need that job. He's a good friend of mine. Yep. And I love during my confirmation hearing when they get on me because they say I'm friends with Donald Trump. Yes, I'm no, I'm not friends with him. I'm good friends with him, and I'm very proud to work for him.
You know, when you look at weaponization and politicization, part of it is using it to attack your political opponents, and we've seen 4 years of that under Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Another part of it is turning the other way at your political allies and refusing to enforce the law against them. And I think one of the most egregious examples we've seen over the last 2 years is the rising anti-Semitism on college campuses.
Amen.
The violent protesters and rioters, many of whom are not students, are not affiliated with the universities, and they are threatening students. You look at Columbia University, the Orthodox rabbi there sent out an email to the Jewish students on campus and said, do not come to campus because the university cannot and will not keep you safe. And the Biden Justice Department did nothing. They investigated nobody. They didn't follow the money. They didn't indict anyone. They didn't prosecute anyone. And they did not enforce Title VI of the Civil Rights laws, which say that if you are tolerating harassment on the basis of ethnicity or religion, that you will have your federal funds cut off. How is the Department of Justice different today? And what will your approach be to anti-Semitism and threats of violence directed against Jewish students on campus or any other students on campus?
We have an October 7th task force that we started, and we will protect you. When I was just a citizen, before I had this job, what you said, I'm watching these aren't peaceful protests. We all believe in peaceful protest. I'm sorry, unless you're a liberal and you don't want a parent to quietly pray outside an abortion clinic, or you're a Catholic, or a parent at a school board, they're going to call you a domestic terrorist.
Yeah.
But I'm screaming at my TV watching these violent protests, you know, the last, since October 7th, you're watching this happen, and all of our students deserve to be safe. And first of all, these students who are here on visas, who are threatening our American students, need to be kicked out of this country.
Amen. It is refreshingly simple to have an attorney general who has the approach that you're going to follow the law and enforce the law. And that, sadly, has been missing for the last 4 years.
It's pretty basic, isn't it?
It should not be complicated. Let me ask you, what keeps you up at night? What scares you in the first 2 weeks in this job?
Pretty much everything. I don't sleep at night anymore. Of course, everything we talked about, the drugs, the cartels, maybe I'll get a little sleep tonight based on the arrests that were just made, the children that are being trafficked, things that have been so personal to me since I was a state prosecutor and then since I was state attorney general. Now you just get to help people on a bigger level, which is pretty cool to get to do that. But most recently, it's really been what Elon has been uncovering, and the USAID, the waste at EPA, this money, trillions of dollars, they believe, just being handed out, which is most likely making a round trip ticket and going to terrorist organizations.
And you are on the front line of defending the president and Elon Musk and Doge and all the effort they're doing, and every day we are seeing Democrat attorneys general and Democrat interest groups suing the president, suing Elon Musk, suing the federal government, and the Department of Justice is on the front lines. And sadly, we're seeing left-wing activist judges, individual district court judges, issuing nationwide injunctions.
Yeah.
Tell us about what it's like defending against those lawsuits, and give us your thoughts on the authority of one radical district judge to try to run the executive branch and issue a nationwide injunction.
2 words: we're winning. But yeah, so you've got one.
I like that answer.
One unelected district judge trying to tell President Trump, who was elected overwhelmingly by the American people, where federal funds can go. We're winning. Even in liberal courts, by the way, Senator, we're winning. And if not, we're going to go all the way to the Supreme Court and keep winning.
Well, Pam, let me say, you and I have been friends a long time. I am thrilled with the job you're doing. I'm thrilled. I was thrilled when the president announced your nomination. And let me say, on behalf of 31 million Texans and Americans across this country, thank you. Thank you for stepping forward and answering the call. Thank you for pouring your heart into defending this nation, into keeping my kids safe, keeping Ben's kids safe, keeping all of our kids safe. And thank you for remaining faithful to the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and restoring integrity to the Department of Justice. It is desperately needed, and you're doing a hell of a job.
Thank you, my friend, and thank you for fighting for us every
Thank you
day.
guys here for being here as well. Don't forget, we do this show Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so make sure that subscribe or auto download button. God bless America.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you.
Bill Abbott, actor and filmmaker Dean Cain, and your host, co-host of Morning on Merritt Street, Vance Stinger.
Wow. That's her. I know I'm going in the middle. Here.
Well, hello, CPAC. Wait a minute. I don't know if I heard that right. Hello, CPAC. Well, we are delighted to be with you this afternoon, but there's one thing we're going to get started and declared right off the bat. CPAC, revival is here. Woo! Revival is here. I know so many of you, myself included, have been praying for revival. We have been praying for our country. We have been praying to return back to the Christian Judeo values that our country is founded on and those great freedoms that we all are blessed to enjoy. So today, we are delighted and honored to talk with you about where we've come, where we are, and what God has for this country in the future. Amen? All right, let's get started. Well, Bill and Dean, it's surreal to be able to sit here and have a conversation with both of you because both of you are so integral in terms of this journey we have all been on. Bill, I want to start with you. We know you have a stellar background. You have led the faith and media movement with your positions throughout the years. Now you're with the Great American Media Corporation. You're leading that. There's so many projects that you have now, more that are coming. But a lot of us have heard your name. A lot of us have watched your entertainment. We're so excited about what you're doing, so thank you for that. I want to start with something that I don't know that you have touched on in public. But we're among family, so we're going to do it right here, right now. You were previously with the Hallmark Channel, and all of a sudden one day you were gone. And you have not really given us the behind the scenes, the scoop, that's what our journalists like to get, in terms of what really happened. Would you like to talk about that for the first time right here publicly?
Of course, sure.
I'm dying to hear this story. I really want to hear it.
Well, we worked together a lot at that time.
Yes.
And we will work together.
At the Hallmark Channel, but amazingly, after you left, I didn't work at the Hallmark Channel anymore.
Well, you're next after he tells his story. Your story's coming.
No. Well, you know, so we had a great team at Hallmark that built an incredible franchise and a great brand and a network and a bunch of networks, actually. And we got to the point in 2017, we were #1, fourth quarter, with Countdown to Christmas, and very successful. And at that point, though, you could see the change in, you know, the chairman and the management at the parent company and the family to become much more woke and DEI driven, very DEI driven. And so, you know, they were in DEI before it was cool to be in DEI. Mm-hmm. And the reality of that was that we were serving an audience that was focused on family-friendly content and faith-based content, that they wanted traditions, they wanted values, they wanted to see that expressed on TV. And so there was tremendous pressure from the family to make changes.
So at some point then you decided and you stood up and had the courage to say, I'm not going along with this. I heard, and maybe this little birdie told me the right information or the wrong information, but there was an incident that happened with the White House tree lighting.
Well, this was really the beginning of really seeing this become public or become evident to me. We were chosen to host and televise the White House tree lighting. It was President Trump's first time doing the tree lighting. And there was an article in The Hill that said, Trump White House partners with Hallmark Channel for Christmas tree lighting. And it was wildly successful. It was the president's first tree lighting. We had talent there. It did big ratings. It was a big part of our Christmas presentation. And the reaction was, at the time, that's not so good. And you're either with humanity or you're against it.
That's what you were told?
Yes.
And what was your response?
Well, at the time, I was totally shocked. We had an incredibly successful business that was thriving, and we were, by any measure, we were told for many years we could never be successful as an independent, that we were just, in over our head. We wouldn't be able to survive, and we were hugely successful. So, I kind of took it with a grain of salt. At the time, though, I was, very shaken by that thinking, and then you saw it become more pervasive over the next couple of years. So, and we had an audience that was so loyal. Yeah. Loved what we did so much, and they had nowhere else to go on TV. There are many places. Any place you want to go, you're going to find different type of content that is not family friendly and values based.
When you're faced with something like that, there had to be a level of heartbreak there, because you've poured your life, you've poured your career into that, you've poured your mission, your testimony, your own personal faith into that, and when you come to a moment like that.
And reading notes from viewers who were just so disappointed with what the direction is heartbreaking.
Wow. Dean, you were with Hallmark Channel as well. Of course, you guys have a history. And you left. Tell us a little bit about your personal experience.
By the way, did I host that Christmas meeting? Yeah, I did host that.
As a matter of fact.
Did you know that was going on behind the scenes at the time?
No, I was too busy working for him. I didn't know that was I didn't realize that was the feedback, which is amazing, because I remember it being a very successful event. It was great fun. And, it's shocking to hear that. It's actually ridiculous. And, when Bill left Hallmark, I was shocked as well, because I had been doing a lot of films for them, and I enjoyed them so much. Yeah. I'm a single father, and I wanted to make a lot of content that my son could see and my family could see and be around that, and that I wanted to watch. And you really built an incredible brand. Absolutely. And then all of a sudden, Bill was gone, and my phone never rang from Hallmark again. And I was like, wow, okay, whatever has happened with the sort of the wokeness, that wasn't going to be me on the other end of the line, which I was okay with. I mean, I had plenty of other things to do. But I found that shocking. I love what you've built. Congratulations again. But it's just that you've proven that what you're putting out there is what people want to watch. And that's fantastic. As far as being canceled, they tried to cancel me in Hollywood so many times. If an actor speaks up on something, listen, and for actors, go ahead and speak up or don't. It doesn't matter to me. I would work with Robert De Niro. He's a great actor. I don't like his politics. Rob Reiner, very good director. Still work with him, and I don't think it works the other way around. Like, I don't think Rob Reiner, and I've met with Rob since, and he didn't hire me, but it could be for many reasons. But, you just sort of wonder, why it's so solid, such a solid wall on one side and not the other. So I don't think I've ever really been canceled, because I continue to work constantly, and I voice my opinion, and thank you.
Well, absolutely. There is an element of courage when it comes to pressure from the world. And as Christians, we need to understand that we are called to be bold. We're called to be confident, and we're called to operate in excellence at all times. It's interesting because now there is a headline of an article in the New York Times that reads,
"This ought to be good.
The woke movies era is over." That was the New York Times. Absolutely. And I want to read this other, because I want both of you to kind of speak to this, because you have been on the forefront of leading by example when it comes to standing up. There is a cultural shift. This is a quote. And this cultural shift is not merely a trend. It is a revival that has the potential to reshape society in ways that will make the powerful take notice. It is not about political parties, yet its impact will be felt across the political and cultural landscape as young people find hope and identity in Christ and step up as the next generation of leaders. That is where we are.
Are you sure that was the New York Times?
That was not the New York Times.
Oh, that part wasn't.
That
Okay.
was the Christian Post.
There we go.
There you go. The New York Times has declared woke movies that era over. With that being said, Bill, what is next for Great American media?
Well, we're going to be true to who we are. We will never compromise our values. We will never change. And we don't care what the environment is. We will be serving the viewer, which we believe, by the way, is the vast majority of the country who want to see faith-based content that's family-friendly and supports the country and isn't derisive of those elements. So we will never change who we are.
What is the importance, Dean, because you have been very outspoken, like you said. It is not the majority of the country that was asking for the woke content that was being put out. I work for Dr. Phil's Merit TV, and Dr. Phil has done so much research on this fringe that seems to have the microphone. You have challenged that. Talk about the significance of where we are right now and what opportunity we have to spread faith, family, and traditional values.
Well, you kind of don't have to look any much further than what Bill has done at Great American Media.
Yeah.
There's a reason that folks have flocked over there. I'm not sure about the Hallmark numbers anymore, but I got a funny feeling they're not as good as they used to be, my friend, and I think your numbers are up. People go and watch what they want to watch, and they'll find that, and I think that's wonderful. Andrew Breitbart, who was a friend of mine, once said that, politics are downstream from culture. When you're making content like Bill is making and putting out there, people want that, and they will come to it, and they will see it. And I think that's super important. I love making that stuff because I want my son to be able to, watch this. Now, he's 24 now, so he's getting into different things. But when he was in high school, he was at a Christian school, and I did a film called God's Not Dead. I did not play a nice guy in that. And everybody watched the film, and the school went to see it, and they're like, dude, your dad's a jerk. So, no, he's acting. He's acting. But, I think it's so important to have those conversations, and those kind of films and shows, they have those families have conversations because of them. When you're putting out this other content for just a fringe number of people, they'll die. And that's why, companies like, I'm not going to pick on Disney, but Disney has not done a remarkable job with their franchises, rebranding, changing things, and look at the success that Bill has had. And I think it's wonderful.
Having the courage to do that, though, is so incredible, because without talent like you in God's Not Dead, it isn't the franchise that it is.
That's right.
Thank you, good sir.
I've had the opportunity to be in 2 of the God's Not Dead movies. We met at the Dallas premiere of God's Not Dead, In God We Trust. If you haven't seen it, it's a powerful movie because it mirrors what is actually happening in our society today. It's the spiritual warfare that we all are watching play out. Talk about this Gen Z revival that is happening. We're seeing it in sports with players. We're seeing it with coaches. Ohio State University, guys, they just had 2,000 young people accept Christ on campus. This is happening. So talk about how we're going to come alongside those young people and help catapult them into being the next generation of godly, faith-filled leaders.
I think you talk about it openly. You have those conversations. If we had this conversation 3 years ago, oh my gosh, what a horrible conversation to have. But now it's okay to have this conversation. And they should. And my son's 24. Does that make him a Gen Z guy? Does that qualify as Gen Z?
So.
Does it? In that area. I was worried about our youth. I really was.
Yeah.
Until I started talking to him and some of his friends. And there's some common sense out there.
Yeah.
And I think it's wonderful. And so doing this, putting out content that they can watch and talk about, and showing them, again, politics downstream from culture. Put it out there and hopefully change the culture. And I think it's happening.
How are you going for that audience? Because we know right now, looking at the statistics, Bible sales are up with Gen Zers. Young men are returning to church in droves. And there are young people who are really returning back to traditional values, faith-filled families. So now it's up to us to come alongside them and help them fly and shine.
The woke left went so far in the other direction, and it was so offensive that it's moved people more toward faith and family and country and supporting the values they love.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you, what are you working on? What do we need to be looking for? We have about a minute, 15 seconds left. What should we be looking from your company? And Dean, I'm going to ask you the same question.
Wow. Well, we will.
Give us the scoop.
That's a big question. We want to work with him. We have two great, our two biggest platforms. Our flagship is streaming and is PureFlix, which we mentioned, and Great American Family. Both are great and successful, and we're very pleased with both. We have a lot of original content on both, original series, original movies, and we'll keep doing that.
Awesome.
I hope to work for him for a long time. That's what I want to do. And I want to keep making content that gets people thinking and talking. Sometimes I'll be the bad guy, but you need a good bad guy with a good message in the film. So I hope to just keep making more and more content and putting it out there and having conversations like this that further our nation and our faith, and I hope it's successful.
And all of us as believers, we are part of this. Each of us has a role to play. So quickly, in 10 seconds or less, what is your message to everyone sitting in here in terms of their role in making this happen and getting this out in their communities?
Support projects and channels and platforms like Bill's. I mean, 100% it. I mean, I give great support to it, and that support means everything.
And be proud of it, and never shy away from it, never run from it, and always be who you are.
And we will continue to give God the glory. Let's thank Bill and Dean Cain, and thank all of you. God bless you, and God bless this great United States of America.
Thank you, fans.
Man, that is a big crowd. And they are not here for me. How you guys doing? Nice vibe this year, right? After the best month we've ever had. Nice to see you all. Thanks for coming out. Good to see you. I'm not going to kill any more time. Let's bring out Elon Musk. Second. Hey guys. We've got one more surprise in case this wasn't enough. I'm going to let Elon do it. Who else is here?
Well, President Milei has a gift for me.
Javier Milei from Argentina. You guys know who that is, right? Why don't we bring him out? Yeah.
This is the chainsaw for bureaucracy. Chainsaw!
That's perfect.
All right.
I love it. Mr. President, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Nice to meet you. I love it. We love it. We love it.
All right.
They told me to put this right
Where should we put it?
They want it right here.
All right, great.
A little stage prop.
All of you guys too. Thanks, guys.
Have a seat.
So,
that was something.
I am become meme. Yeah, pretty much. I'm living the meme. It's like there's living the dream and there's living the meme, and it's pretty much what's happening, you know.
You're like, I think you're bigger.
I mean, Doge started out as a meme. Think about it. And now it's real. Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy.
But it's cool.
Let me ask you this. A year ago, if someone had told you you'd be at CPAC and working with the president to absolutely shred the government, the swamp, whatever you want to call it, would you have ever believed that?
No.
No? Me neither.
But it's cool. This is awesome. And I just want to say, thanks for your support. I mean, you guys are, So, I mean, we're trying to get good things done, but also, have a good time doing it. And, and have a sense of humor, So, I mean, the left wanted to make comedy illegal, Like, you can't make fun of anything. So then it's like, comedy sucks. It's like, nothing's funny. You can't make fun of anything. It's like, legalize comedy. Yeah. Legalize comedy.
And we've shifted the entire culture in just the last few months. The whole culture of this country has shifted dramatically just because of that election.
Yeah, exactly. Freedom of speech, having fun again. It seems like we should have a good time, I
mean, it's a great time. Everybody in this place is so excited, and when you talk to conservatives, everybody's happy.
Yeah.
And everybody feels this great sense of relief because we were going to hell for about 4 years. It really felt bad. Yeah. Especially toward the end, it felt really bad.
Yeah, I thought we were sort of heading for a point of no return, really.
Yeah.
Until that's why it was so essential that President Trump win the election, and that there be a Republican majority in the House and Senate, which, thanks to you, that has been accomplished.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to ask you, one of the biggest questions I have for you is, you've been, politically, you weren't really on one side or the other for a long time. You're a businessman. A lot of people, they stay away from it. Now you're on a side, and you've chosen a side. You're sitting here in a MAGA hat. What's it, how did that happen? What was the moment?
It's like, dark Gothic MAGA.
That's a good one. What was there a specific moment? Was there a moment that it all changed?
Yeah, when I realized I was a fool. But no, I was, I guess, yeah, I mean, I'd say I was politically neutral for quite a while. Leaning a little Democrat.
How do you go from that to this?
Yeah, no.
How does that happen?
Well,
did they go crazy?
Yeah, they did go crazy.
Yeah, they went crazy.
No, I mean the whole cancel culture and it's trying to stop freedom of speech and infringe upon people's personal freedoms. They just want state control of what you say. They want to take away your guns. And the reason they want to take away your guns is there's nothing you do to oppose them. So it's sort of like, I just like, we just need to restore the fundamental elements of what made America great, which is freedom and opportunity.
Yeah. We're seeing a lot of these freedoms disappearing in the West. It's not just about America. We're all watching Europe and knowing that they're about 50, 100 years ahead of us, right? Because they got an early start. And we're watching how they're devolving. And you're trying to save it from happening here.
No, I mean, in Europe, they put people in prison for memes.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's insane.
And they're collapsing. I mean, this society it's a collapsing society. It feels that way.
It feels like
France was nicer 50 years ago than it is today.
Yeah.
I don't think you can question that.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, really. Thanks. I love you too.
I do love
I really just wanted to do useful things, basically build products, provide products and services that are good, and that I wasn't really that interested in being political. It just there was at a certain point no choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, can I ask you on the same side of that coin, what's it like from going neutral to being vilified, largely vilified by the media? Like you're
what? No. Really?
I mean, you turn on some of these channels, brother. I mean, they're angry at you. Does it bother you at all? Does it get to you?
I mean, when they're chanting for my death, I suppose that's a little, you know.
Not good.
But then, like, the song's not even that good, and it's like you call that a death chant? That's nothing. Please.
They've been singing a lot lately.
It's not even good music.
There's a lot of music lately. It's not good music either. Yeah.
Yes.
I would say that watching what you're doing with Doge is just people love it. I mean, I've always looked at the government and. I've always looked at the government and I've seen this big machine and you just know that they waste because they don't care. There's more money coming, they don't care.
Yeah.
You're cutting all this out. Everybody in this country knows that the government is full of waste, fraud, and abuse. And you're doing the work and the Americans love it. Watching their reaction politically to this, I can't believe how bad they are at responding to this. I don't know how you're going to sit there and scream and complain because they're cutting waste out of the government and try to win another election. How do you try to win on that?
Well, at this point, I'm not sure how much of the left is even real.
Yeah.
You know.
How much was propped up by our money? You know.
Yeah. Like literally, you see like these sort of fake rallies where there's like hardly any people, and the media will like frame it and like get full 6 people, in the frame, but there's like nobody else is there. Like just it doesn't have popular support. But then you learn that like there's hundreds of billions of dollars going to these so-called NGOs. And it's your tax dollars that are funding things that are fundamentally anti-American.
And they're propping up their narrative.
Yes.
A lot of that government money has been propping up a left that I don't think is as strong as they made it seem.
In fact, a massive amount of your tax dollars is going to legacy media companies.
Yes.
Directly from the government.
The government wants to take over media.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah, that's why we have X.
Yeah, and that's
why you spent $44 billion. I mean, that's a lot of money.
I mean,
more than it was probably worth. But there was a message.
Freedom is priceless.
Priceless. Yeah. Probably one of the most important investments this country's ever seen. If you got to protect the First Amendment, it's not much more important than that.
Yeah, I mean, I got a lot of criticism, and people said, "Well, that proves he's a huge idiot." From he bought it for whatever, $44 billion, and now it's worth like 8 cents. And
it's not worth 8 cents.
But it was essentially to buy freedom of expression,
Once that's gone, it's all over. It's all over.
Yeah.
It's into tyranny is really quick after that.
Yeah, I mean, like, all the sort of federal money going to media companies is what helps explain why the legacy media all says the same thing at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, isn't it like, it's like weird, like you put them up where it's like, like when
they're mouthpieces for
the state.
For the state.
Yes.
And that's what we've come to know.
Yeah.
It's scary.
And I like that meme where they're, because they're always saying like threat to our democracy, but if you just replace democracy with bureaucracy, it makes a lot of sense.
It makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Big threat to the bureaucracy.
That's exactly right. Let's talk about these Doge dividend checks that everybody's talking about this week. And I know you tweeted out that you're gonna. Does everybody want like a $5,000 check in the mail? It sounds kind of good, right? And the best part about it would be knowing where it came from. That's $5,000 that you sent them last year.
Totally. It's money that's taken away from things that are destructive to the country, and from organizations that hate you to you. That's awesome.
Does it seem? I mean, have you talked?
I mean, that's like glorious. That's like
it's the best.
The spoils of battle,
I like that. Is there traction on that?
Yeah. So I talked to the president, and he's supportive of that, and so it sounds like that's something we're going to do.
Yep.
So as we're finding savings, that's going to translate directly to reductions in tax. So.
Yeah. I think they fired 6,000 people at the IRS today. And I think Lutnick said last night that they're talking about shutting down the IRS. And I think it's fair. I think people should realize this is, I mean, the amount of money that we send Washington, like 5 or 6 trillion a year. That is such an ungodly amount of money. I mean, what do they, they say like a trillion seconds is like 30 years or something like that. I mean, that's how much we send them, and they seem to never have enough. There must be a lot you can cut.
No, absolutely. People ask me, what's the most surprising thing that you've encountered when you go to D.C., when you're in D.C.? And I said, well, the most surprising thing is the scale of the expenditures and actually how easy it is to, when you add caring and competence where it was absent before, you can actually save billions of dollars, sometimes in an hour.
Yeah.
Like, it's wild.
And then they scoff at it and say, oh, a few billion here, there. I mean, the way they're talking about it, you can see they don't care. It's such little money compared to how much they're used to wasting. That's what's really scary.
Yeah, no, I mean, exactly. But obviously, it just shows that they really lack empathy for the average taxpayer who's working hard, paying taxes, and then they say, oh, $1 million doesn't matter. I'm like, I think it matters a lot to people, So what are you talking about?
I'd like to have it. Let me ask you a question. I know the president fairly well, watched him survive 2 assassination attempts. Had the first one not happened, the second one would have gotten him. It was very, because without those extra guys, they would have never seen that gun poking through the fence at the golf course. I saw the crew that you had.
Isn't it like mind-blowing that this has happened? I mean, it just... And what, by the way, why do we still know nothing about that guy in Butler? What's going on? But Cash is going to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, there you go.
By the way,
Confirmed just a couple hours ago, but I saw that the security detail that you had come in is enormous.
Well, it's not that enormous. Maybe it should be bigger. I don't know.
I think you could probably afford it. But I mean, how concerned are you about your safety? I mean, you are a wanted man. Are you nervous?
So, look, I'm open to ideas for improving security. I have to tell you, I don't actually have a death wish. I think. It's not that easy. I mean, but I have I've had even people like President Bukele from El Salvador who managed to put in prison 100,000 murderous thugs, and he was he called me. He's like, I'm worried about your security. I'm like, you're worried about my security? I'm like, what? Okay.
I mean, talk about guts to do that down there. I mean,
yeah, totally,
and survive.
I was like, how did you put all those thugs in prison without dying? Because it seems like that would have been not easy,
Well, the president has one of his top attorneys is now investigating, I guess, Chuck Schumer for threats against SCOTUS, a congressman on the Democrat side, for saying, basically saying we're going to bring a war to you, like a fight to you. I mean, the rhetoric. You guys are screwing with things that are not supposed to be messed with. And
we're fighting the Matrix.
There's a lot
big
of
time.
people that really don't want that to happen.
Yeah, we're fighting the Matrix big time here. But it's got to be done.
Yeah.
It
certainly does. What's going on with? Tell us about Fort Knox. It's Kentucky. It's a military base. It's a ton of gold, tons and tons and tons.
5,000 tons of gold, or
5,000 tons of gold are there in the ground and this. I mean, it's a very secure
thing. I think
thing.
we all want to see it.
I'd love to see it.
This is your gold, by the way. It's the public's gold.
Do you think it's not there?
I don't know. I think
you just want to see it.
Yeah, we want to go see it and just make sure somebody did spray paint some lead or something,
Yeah.
Is this real gold? Fight at the bar,
Didn't dent.
But I think honestly, part of this also is just let's have some fun and like I said, all this gold at Fort Knox, it's the public's gold. It's your gold. So, I think you have a right to see it.
You want to take a tour?
Yeah. I think we should have do a tour. And then the president last night was like, I think he's in favor of it. That would be cool. And then it should be a live tour. You can see what's going on, open the door, what's behind it.
Well, and there's,
I think I'd watch that.
Oh, are you kidding?
Yeah.
I mean, what does 5,000 tons of gold look
totally.
like?
What does
How
it
big
look
is
like?
that? Is it the size of this?
It's got to be pretty big,
It's got to be a lot of
Maybe
gold.
there's some other stuff in there, like just walk around, like, I don't know, maybe they got some other stuff in there.
Are you thinking about auditing the Federal Reserve as well, which is obviously
yeah, sure.
Regulates our
All right.
economy? I imagine you think the waste has got to be everywhere.
Yeah, no, waste is pretty much everywhere. People ask, like, how can you find waste in D.C.? I'm like, look, it's like being in a room, and there's target, the wall, the roofs, and the floor are all targets. So it's like, you're going to close your eyes and go shoot in any direction. Because you can't miss, you know? So it's pretty wild. Like you just push on things a little bit and you save billions of dollars. Like just a little bit, you know? It's wild.
It's scary, isn't it?
That's why I say, it really is underrated if you add caring and competence, how much things improve.
Yeah.
And you know, and we just find so many totally crazy things, which, you know, we're sharing with the public. We post everything we learn. You know, just you know, so you can see it. You know.
What do you?
And like, it's like, isn't it like it's totally wild? Like we just did like a check the database on Social Security. Like it says how many alive Americans eligible for Social Security are there? And according to the database, it's over 400 million. And we're like, wait a second.
And how many are getting?
How old are they again?
Yeah.
And then like we found like one person in there is like 360 years old. I'm like, what, do they know Ben Franklin or
before the
something?
revolution.
I mean,
yeah.
You know, America didn't exist before that time. Like so.
Yeah, we were colonies.
You know, maybe it's just me, but I think it's a red flag. I don't know.
But are there indications that there were checks going to those people or any of those people?
Well, yeah.
That's, I guess, the question, right? I mean, I get the Social Security Administration is dumb, but are they paying these people? Are they that dumb? I don't know.
A bunch of money is going out from the Social Security Administration, and in fact, from all entitlements programs.
$72 billion in waste in like 7 years. That's $10 billion a year.
Well, I think the
fraudulent payments.
The rough estimate from Government Accountability Office is over $500 billion of fraud a year. $500 billion.
And how long at a time?
Per year.
Per year on Social Security?
No, on all
on all government.
On all entitlements.
All entitlements.
All
Okay,
entitlements. Yeah. It sort of actually makes sense when you look at the thing from a top level and say, like, okay, there's $7 trillion of spending by the government. What percentage do you think is fraudulent? Okay, exactly. Like a conservative estimate of the $7 trillion would be 10%. Conservative.
Probably a little higher than that, yeah.
Exactly.
Feels like a quarter out of every dollar, right?
But if the fraud's only 10% of $7 trillion, you've got $700 billion of fraud.
Yeah.
And by the way, it's like really easy to take advantage of the federal government. It's very easy. So.
Very easy. Look at COVID.
Yes.
Everybody got rich during COVID. I mean, look at all these scammers. I mean, it's unbelievable.
It looks like, in terms of the COVID payments, there was something like $200 billion of COVID payment fraud taken by fraudsters out of the country.
Out of the country, yeah.
That's like I think, listen, if there's going to be fraud, it should at least be domestic.
Yeah.
So, you know. But they managed to get $200 billion out of the country. I'm like, what? Didn't we notice that?
Let me ask you, let's do immigration here for a second. You know, there's this move now that Trump's latest thing is that he's going to cut funding, any kind of money that ends up in the hands of illegal immigrants. So if you're funding these sanctuary cities and states, that's how they thrive, right? They're paying for these hotels. That's all federal money. If you got a hotel in your city, in New York, you got all these hotels full of migrants, that's not state money. That's the feds are covering that. He's going to cut all that. It's really hard to deport 15 million people. And it seems like the move now is, let's see if we, especially at the rate that we're going, it seems like the move now is, let's make it so that they leave on their own. If there's no longer a dole system for them, if they can't get their hands on hotel rooms and money, they're going to go back, especially if there's no work.
Well, I think it's really important for people to understand that the Biden administration sent any possible money that they could if there was money they could send to facilitate and amplify illegal immigration, they sent it. Okay, they took money from FEMA meant for helping Americans in distress and sent that money to luxury hotels for illegal immigrants in New York. That is an outrage.
Yeah.
They actually did that. And not only that, even after the president signed an executive order saying it has to stop, the FEMA, the sort of whatever deep state bureaucrats still pressed send on $80 million last week to go to the Roosevelt Hotel in New York and other places last week. And now they're mad that it got stopped, and they're like trying to sue to have it be restored. It's like the gumption is
You think they're
unreal.
creating a new voter class? Would you think that was the goal when they opened up the borders for 4 years? Create a new voter class, get them citizenship, get them in, green cards, vote.
A lot of these things, like you don't actually have to assume some grand conspiracy. You just need to look at basic incentives.
Benefits.
So if the incentives, fundamentally, if the probability that an illegal is going to vote Democrat at some point, whether it's cheating, but eventually they can become citizens. But if the probability is like 80, 90%, you just look at California, which is supermajority Dem, and then the incentive is to maximize the number of illegals in the country. That is why the Biden administration was pushing to get in as many illegals as possible and spend every dollar possible to get as many, because every one of them is a customer, every one of them is a voter.
Yeah.
So the whole thing was a giant voter importation scam.
Pretty obvious.
Very obvious.
Yeah.
And then moreover, then they actually created the CBP1 voter app thing, where they were, which is like where they would literally fly people in. It's not like like at the point at which people are being flown in at your expense,
sending planes,
like building a
pick people
wall
up,
doesn't
fly
matter.
them over the border.
Yeah, they're literally flying them in.
No other country in the world would do something like this. Nobody is this stupid.
Yeah, and then we found that it was like $100 million contract given to some guy in London, actually, oddly enough, for the CBP1 app. So they're flying illegals into the swing states.
Yeah.
And if you've got like a margin of victory of maybe 20,000 people, and you fly 200,000 illegals into that state, it's not going to be a swing state for long.
Change the numbers eventually.
Yeah.
Maybe in 4 or 8 years, you're talking about
It's
perpetual
just a matter
power.
of time.
It's a long game.
It's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
So it might take like a year for an asylum seeker or something to get a green card, and then 5 years for the citizenship. It's an investment that is guaranteed to pay off.
Yeah.
Just a question of when.
They all remember who brought them in and who left them here.
Exactly.
Exactly. I want to go back. I want to talk about Biden.
This is a big deal. Like I think a lot of people don't quite appreciate that this was an actual, real scam at scale to tilt the scales of democracy in America.
It's treason.
Treason.
Yeah. One more Biden question. I remember when they would do the electric car stuff, they would always try to box you out, even though you have the only electric car anybody wants. You said, I think this week, that you think that Biden left these astronauts up in space because he didn't want to give you an opportunity to save them, make NASA look bad, make the private sector look better, make you look good. You believe that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, of course.
I kind of agree. Why would he want to let you help them come down when you're supporting the president?
I mean, the Biden administration was attacking me next level.
Yeah.
I mean, the Department of Justice, or Injustice under the Biden administration, was, I mean, they were suing SpaceX. They're suing SpaceX for not hiring asylum seekers. And we're like, but it's actually illegal for us to hire asylum seekers because rocket technology is covered under ITAR rules, which means it's an advanced weapons technology.
Yeah.
And so we can only hire permanent residents or or citizens.
Right.
Like, so we're damned if we do, damned if we don't. And we said, so how can they sue us for not hiring asylum seekers when it's actually illegal for us to do so? But nonetheless, there was a big Department of Justice or Injustice case about this against SpaceX. So obviously it was an antagonistic situation. And those astronauts were supposed to be up there for 8 days, and now they're up there for 8 months. Does that make any sense? And we obviously could have brought them back sooner, but they didn't want anyone who supported President Trump to look good, basically.
Yeah.
That's the issue.
a lot of them are saying right now that the reason that you want to get into Social Security, that you want to get into all of these different, into Treasury and things like that, is that you're looking for personal information and you're trying to make more money.
Yeah.
I've never met anybody as rich as you that cared less about money in my life. Every time I hear a story about you, you're sleeping on a couch of some other guy in a city that you could buy the entire thing.
Yeah,
I don't think you care about money, do you?
No, actually, I mean, listen, like, if I steal some Social Security, I can finally buy nice things.
Yeah.
You know?
And on that same question, they're also talking about you guys are going to end Social Security, you're going to end Medicare, you're going to end these things. I don't imagine that conversation has been had with the president, and that's the plan.
No, in fact, the actions that we're taking with the support of the president and the support of the agencies is what will save Medicare, what will save Social Security.
Yeah.
And because if the country goes insolvent, if all the money is just spent on paying interest on debt, there's no money left for anything.
Yeah.
So that's the reason I'm doing this, is because I was looking at the big picture here, and it's like, man, our debt's getting out of control. The interest payments, the interest on the national debt now exceeds the entire Defense Department budget.
It's $1 trillion a year in
Yes.
interest. Just to carry the money that we owe is $1 trillion a year.
Yes.
That is unbelievable.
And rising rapidly. So like, I mean, a country is no different from a person. Country overspends, country goes bankrupt. Same as a person who overspends goes bankrupt. So it's not like optional to solve these things. It's essential. So
we're going to go bankrupt.
Yes,
we are. Couple minutes left here. Russia. There's a huge push from the administration.
Yeah. People are like sometimes like
to end this war.
Say like,
yeah.
You know, I'm a bought asset of Putin.
Yeah.
I'm like, he can't afford me.
Yeah. I think you're worth more than Russia.
Think about it.
I like that. So, you're trying to end a war. Ending a war always means you have to compromise, you have to negotiate with an enemy or an adversary. That's just what it is. And right now, they are lambasting the president for trying a different method to a war that they haven't been able to end for 3.5 years or 3 years.
Yeah.
They're saying Trump's blaming Zelensky for the invasion. How do you process all of the negativity toward him for trying to end this war?
Well, first of all, I think we should have empathy for the people dying at the front lines. That's the most important thing. And people have been dying, you know, it's like, how many more years is this supposed to go on?
Yeah.
And imagine if that was your son, your father, you know, what are they dying for?
Yeah.
What exactly are they dying for? That line the line of engagement has barely moved for 2 years.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of people dead in trenches for what? And I'll tell you what for what. It's like for the biggest graft machine that I've ever seen in my life. That's for what. It's unreal. Like the amount of money that is being taken in graft and bribery is disgusting. And so what's actually happening is that those you know, those poor guys are getting sent into a meat grinder for money. That's what's actually going on.
Yeah.
And it needs to stop.
And it seems, Trump is so pragmatic on this. He's just looking at it and he's saying it's Ukraine, it's not our country, it's not a NATO ally. I just want to see people not dying. I want to see on both sides. Think about how so many young men have died in Ukraine that the army is starting to age out. The military is aging out. You got 40 and 50-year-old guys fighting in a war because there's nobody left that's not killed or maimed in their 20s.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it. Think about how many people that is. If you're a humanitarian at all, you just got to end the war. No matter what. Just get it over with.
Yes. People, they need to stop dying.
Yeah.
And the grift machine's got to stop, you know. So, and I think people, a lot of people out there don't realize, like, the president has a lot of empathy. He really cares, you know. He's a good man. So.
I got one more for you. I've been fascinated by you for a very long time.
Thanks.
I've never seen anybody that can, do so many things at the same time. You've got the rockets, you got the cars. I've always wanted to ask you, what is it like inside your mind? Like, is it just 1,000 miles an hour? I mean, are you?
Yeah.
Is it just not? I mean, does it ever stop? Do you sleep? How much do you sleep? What's? Paint us a picture of inside of the mind of a genius. Like, how do you do all this? Can you answer that question? It's not an easy question. Yeah.
I mean, my mind is a storm.
Yeah.
So, it's a storm. But I mean, let me maybe tell you something. Like, you didn't ask the question, but I think it's worth kind of nonetheless maybe just elaborating on something, which is, you know, I grew up in South Africa, but my morality was informed by America. I read comic books, you know, played Dungeons and Dragons, and I watched American TV shows, and it seemed like America cared about being the good guys, you know, about doing the right thing, and that's actually pretty unusual, by the way.
Yeah.
It's like
in the world, it's very unusual.
Yeah, it's not like actually.
Most countries don't do that.
No, they don't.
No.
And so I was like, yeah, you know, you want to be this good. You want to be on the side of good. You want to care about what's right, and yeah. So that's
yeah,
what I believe in. You know, so.
I gave you a tough one at the end.
Yeah. So, yeah.
That's great. That's great. Elon Musk.
All right,
you're the
thank
man.
you.
Thank you so much.
All right.
I appreciate it.